Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Michelle,
Yes, ma'am.
can you tell me which items were updated?
Yes, ma'am. So it is the Save Your Seat campaign. There is an attachment that says final Save Your Seat report. That one was just updated today, and it just has the latest and greatest numbers so you can compare how much we've improved since we posted for the meeting. Also, there's an updated reopening of schools for presentation and report number 3.
Okay.
And also there was an update to the parent-teacher survey, and that is because the surveys closed after we posted. So we wanted to make sure you had the latest and greatest numbers for that as well.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we got about a minute here. Do we have everyone? We got Mr. Rasco, Ms. Prado, Ms. Alderete.
We're missing Homer.
Oh, no, I see Mr. Flores connected.
Oh, yeah?
I see Mr. Flores,
Okay, I'm not seeing it.
Dr. Puig.
Can you
Okay.
hear me? I'm on.
Oh, there you are.
There you
Okay.
are. We got Miss Barbara. I think we're missing Miss Ibarra Peña. Michelle, did she happen to make contact at all?
She has not just yet. Hello, Mr. Flores. I had not seen you on the list either, but I will try to reach out to her right now.
Okay, thank you. We'll give Michelle about a minute. Miss Alderete, I just want to say that that doll next to you is kind of weirding me out.
So that's actually the cardboard kids. Don't. I'm on.
Gotcha.
Don't. No, my kid, he's going to wake up my son and he terrifies him when he does. So it's a cardboard kid. I do it each year and it's for child abuse recognition. So that one was actually, it's a cardboard and she's made with my microphone and everything. So she had my hair cut when my hair was a bit shorter and she has a tutu.
Gotcha. Okay, everybody ready?
Ready.
I believe Miss Ibarra Peña is on. She just texted me that she was.
Okay, great. Okay, here we go. The meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District Board of Trustees will now come to order. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020, and the time is 6 p.m. Michelle, if we can have a roll call, please.
Ms. Stacy Alderete,
Present.
Mr. Gilbert Rodriguez,
Present.
Mrs. Connie Prado,
Present.
Ms. Shirley Ibarra Peña, Ms. Ibarra Peña, is that a yes or present? Mr. Homer Flores,
Here.
Mr. Kevin Rasco,
Present.
Ms. Veronica Barba.
Present.
Thank you, Michelle. The first item on the agenda is the call to is the Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge, prayer, and call to action.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please bow your head in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we are meeting here today to continue working for our students and our families. Give us the guidance to make the best decisions for our community. Please watch over us and keep us safe and healthy so we may meet again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Call to action. All students will enjoy successful education experiences, empowering them to make decisions while enriching their lives in the future they create.
Thank you, Ms. Collier. The next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. Mr. Rasco?
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. We actually currently have 8 citizens to be heard. If the board members would please go to their email and look at these, and we'll start off with Jessica Pola with the South San AFT. Jessica, if you are on the line, will you let us know that
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. So Jessica, I'll set a timer for 3 minutes and let you know when your time runs out.
Thank you. President Rodriguez, members of the board, Dr. Puig, my name is Jessica Pola, and I'm representing South San AFT. We would like to thank each board member and Dr. Puig for your comments last week in wanting to keep the students and employees safe. We believe the best path for the first 9 weeks is distance learning, with teachers and support personnel working from home. This is an unpredictable and vicious virus, and safety should be foremost. Ms. Aldrete, thank you for telling your story, and our prayers are with you and your family. There are those who believe that students under 10 are not likely to get the virus or pass it along, and that those 10 to 18 recover quickly. The evidence is rapidly coming in. Israel opened their schools on May 17th, and there were only 10 new cases of COVID-19 in a country of 9 million people. 2 weeks later, on June 3rd, 244 and staff tested for COVID-19. By July 14th, 2,206 students, teachers, and staff had contracted COVID-19, and 147,000 students, student teachers, and staff are in quarantine. In South Korea, a study revealed that children from 10 to 18 spread the virus at a high rate, while children under 10 also spread the virus, but at a lower rate. Children are not safe from COVID-19. They may recover quickly, but no one knows if lasting damage to their health has been caused. In Missouri, a camp opened which was said to be safe by the governor. 82 children and staff contracted COVID-19. In Texas, as of July 8th, there were only 1,799 reported positive cases of COVID-19 at 1,078 child care operations. Of these, 592 were children, and the trend is upward. Our request is that for the first 9 weeks, there would be distance learning only. So we support your waiver request, and that teachers and support personnel work from their home. Let's be safe and not sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Up next on Citizens to be Heard is Cynthia Rangel, and board members, that email came in at 11:47. So Cynthia, if you're on the line, you have an opportunity to read your letter. Otherwise, we'll give the board an opportunity to read the letter to themselves. And I'll give a minute for that. Okay, up next is Juanita Ramos, who has a letter that came into us at 12:35 p.m. And Juanita, if you're on the line, you can read your letter to us. Otherwise, we'll give the board a little bit of time here to read that to themselves. Okay, up next is Nicole Martinez, and Nicole had a letter that came into us at 1:47. So Nicole, if you're on the line, you can read that letter to us, or we'll give the board a little bit of time to read that to themselves. Okay, up next is Angel Cruz. This letter came in at 2:54 p.m. And Angel, if you're on the line, you're welcome to read your letter. Otherwise, the board will read this to themselves. Up next, we have Jose Arambide, who had a letter that came in at 4:44. And if Jose's on the line, you can read your letter to us, or we'll designate some time for the board to read that to themselves. Up next is a letter from Julie, and I apologize, there's no last name, but it came in at 4:45. If Julie's on the line, you can read the letter to us, or we'll give the board a minute to read that to themselves. And finally, our last letter is from Delia Villarreal. And that letter came into us right at 5 o'clock. So if there's anyone who is on the line to read that, please do so now, or we'll give the board a little bit of time to read that to themselves. Mr. President, that concludes all of the citizens to be heard.
Thank you for that, Mr. Roscoe. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's remarks. Dr. Puig.
Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. Good evening. I'd like to begin my report with employee recognitions. And we know that our employees are the backbone of our successful district, our successful company, our successful drive. Our call to action is all about having wonderful employees. And we want to honor 4 tonight, and really thinking about the pandemic and how it really turned our district and our world upside down. We want to give some high fives to some employees that really answered the call, went above and beyond, and we have so many to honor, quite frankly. And we chose 4 tonight, and 3 of them are food service all-stars, and we have another employee too we'll recognize here, but I'd love to begin with the food service all-stars. And I want to begin with Carmen Flores. Mrs. Flores, Carmen is the cafeteria manager over at Shepherd, and she crossed campuses during this COVID outbreak to help serve free curbside meals at Palo Alto Elementary to children who were studying from home. And her supervisors credit Carmen with organizing the assembly line, running the operational side of the meal program. And Carmen partnered with the Palo Alto Elementary School cafeteria manager, ensuring all the children were able to receive healthy and delicious meals. And we know that thousands of meals were served during this time. And so I want to lift up Carmen and the great work that she is doing and continues to do, and her courage, and really exemplifying what it means to be a South San all-star. She's just amazing. So, and I want to lift up Esther Martinez. And while Carmen was in the throes of making things happen with the meals program, Palo Alto Elementary cafeteria manager Esther Martinez took care of organizing the service. And within days, all the children that needed a healthy meal, whether it be breakfast or lunch, were taken care of, including providing the extra meals on Thursday for those kids that wouldn't have anything on that Friday, which was a tremendous amount of preparation, organization, logistically. So just want to thank Miss Martinez Esther for going above and beyond her devotion to our kiddos. And then also in food service, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Mr. Homer McCow. Mr. Homer is the district's child nutrition warehouse foreman, and he was tasked with picking up cases of food at each school and delivering them to our curbside sites. And keep in mind, we had just received full food deliveries at every school to be ready for service after spring break, but we never came back. He just pivoted on a dime and made sure there were loads of food that had to be moved around, and that it happened. He took care of business because of his dedication to our children, his determination to execute a job well done for our children and staff. It all came together. So again, Homer made sure that all the necessary ingredients for the meal preparation were delivered and got to where they needed to be. And so, folks, I just want to lift up these food service all-stars. Carmen, Esther, Homer, thank you for your dedication and your service and your commitment to our children. And the district is better because of you. And the next employee I want to lift up is Juanita Garcia. And Juanita is a longtime member of South San Family. She is an executive assistant to the chief academic officer and the instructional department. She spent a lot of her time at one part of the building running to the other part of the building to assist the then interim superintendent Dolores Sendejo in both of her roles as the CAO and interim superintendent. And so Juanita really demonstrates the spirit of being fast, friendly, focused, flexible, and family. And she exudes a positivity that's infectious. And so I want to really lift up Juanita for the work that she's doing. So those employees, I just want to thank them from the bottom of my heart personally. And we have some things we'd like to send to them too. So sorry we can't meet in person, but it's just too important that we lift up their efforts. And so we'll be sending some nice care packages and thank you their way. The next part of my report, I just want to reiterate that in this COVID climate that we're in, the city of San Antonio has issued the health directive order that all schools in Bexar County will conduct remote learning through September 7th. Now, we know that TEA has also issued their own guidance and request for waivers to extend the remote learning. And so that's going to be considered tonight, as you heard Mrs. Balo on the public comment side of that. So I hope everyone understands that we are 100% ready to support our teachers and their success in this remote climate. We're going to lift off and launch school 1 month from today. 1 month. and we are aligning all of our resources to make sure that launch is successful, and we're excited to do that. And that being said, again, we're taking the safety first approach for our students, our staff, and broader community. I'm really just so proud of the task force and the effort they're making to ensure that we have a plan to submit to TEA that is solid and that there's a vision to make sure that the remote learning is indeed successful. And next, I want to touch on the board retreat that President Rodriguez and myself are working on. And thanks to everyone for your flexibility. We certainly would love to do this in person, but we're going to do it virtually. And that has been tentatively rescheduled for August 8th at 1 o'clock. It'll go from 1 to 6 p.m. And we are excited about that. And trustees, we did send out an email requesting some of your ideas to include in the retreat. You have that in your inbox. Thank you to those who have sent those along. Please don't hesitate to share your opinions, even of items that aren't on that list. And then finally, I just want to underscore what a pleasure it is working with Mr. Baum right now and his team. We are deeply engrossed in the operational budget process. We are defining service standards in terms of the course offerings within our educational programs. We are continuing to refine the projected student enrollments. We're developing staff and allocations and looking at compensation plans and putting together a matrix for the budget committee and the board to consider. And overall, just estimating the expenditures that are needed to support the programs and services. So, Mr. Board President, thank you for your time, and trustees for allowing me to present this report tonight.
Thank you for that, Dr. Puig. The next item on the agenda is the board president's remarks. So I guess that's me. Dr. Puig, thank you for the opportunity again to collaborate on putting this agenda together. It's definitely important, the process that we're undertaking to make sure that we address all the items that need board consideration. So I don't have anything scripted. I just wanted to make a couple of remarks on, the incoming school year. Certainly, our Dr. Puig and his staff know the challenges. He does very well communicating with the Board of Trustees information as it's relayed from TEA, certainly the city and the county. It's a challenging time. It's an uncertain time, but it's, I'm a glass half full type of person, and it's an opportunity for us to become efficient and stronger and how we're going to deliver our educational services to our students in our community. Certainly, the food service is going to be an integral part of that as well. So thank you, Dr. Puig, for recognizing those individuals, on the front lines. So we certainly appreciate their commitment. To touch on the zero-based budget approach, again, it's if you've watched our other meetings or read the data, where Dr. Puig and Mr. Baum and team are engrossed in and really just deeply involved in ripping apart that budget and putting it back together in the most efficient way possible. And it's certainly going to reveal some opportunities. In that is a bunch of analysis, a bunch of assessment and of every expenditure. And it's being stewards of taxpayer dollars, it's our direct responsibility to ensure that that's happening, right? Providing that oversight. So we certainly support that approach when it comes to those expenditures, because we have to ensure that we're being efficient and that we're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars and allocating them appropriately. On the other side of that, for those that Dr. Puig and I talk about it often, and he certainly communicated it during our board meetings, is, we are shaping and molding South San Antonio Independent School District to be one that's going to be leading from the front. I, for one, am not a follower. I don't think any one of us want to be a follower. We want to lead from the front and lead by example through our actions. And it starts with the Board of Trustees as good governance. So I'm glad that my colleagues are in support of that. So those who want to work at South San Antonio Independent School District or be in business with South San Antonio Independent School District, there's a standard there of expectations that we have. and setting those standards of excellence that Dr. Puig is certainly talking about. And that's an undertaking that we welcome. So, we look forward to the good work and the results that they're gonna come from that. The last thing is just thank you for the opportunity to service for those who are watching on live stream. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the kids and the community of South San Antonio Independent School District. Thank you to my board colleagues for believing in me and elected me as your board president to lead from the front and do things the right way and to lead by example. Certainly, it's something that I take very, very seriously. So I relish that opportunity and look forward to the abundance of good things that are coming down the pipe for South San Antonio Independent School District. That concludes my comments. The next item on the agenda are the consent items. The consent agenda consists of routine and reoccurring nature items grouped together under one action item. All such items shall be acted upon by one vote without separate discussion unless a board member requests that an item be withdrawn for individual consideration. The remaining items shall be adopted under a single motion and vote. So we have 7 items. Item number 1, approve the first renewal special education direct and support contracted service providers to support special populations. Number 2, approve contract for the renewal of achievement via individual determination AVID membership for Dwight Middle School, Shepherd Middle School, and Zamora Middle School, and new membership for Kazin Middle School. Definitely exciting there. Item number 3, approval of the July budget amendment. Item number 4, approve the renewal of the E-rate consultant contract. Item number 5, appoint authorized investment officers for the South San Antonio Independent School District. Item number 6, approve college boards, college readiness and success contract. You got the contract number there, board members. Item number 7, approval of teacher hire transferred under the terms of District of Innovation. At this time, are there any items that any board members would like to pull for individual consideration?
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez.
Ms. Prado?
Yes, items number 1 and 7.
Ms. Prado is pulling items number 1 and 7. Let's make a note. That was 1 and 7. Got it. Any other items from any other individual board members? Okay, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion on items number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
I move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Prado. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Roscoe. Michelle, we can get a roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Kevin Rasco,
Yes.
Veronica Barba.
Yes.
Thank you, Michelle. At this time, we'll go to item number 1, approve the first renewal special education direct and support contracted service providers to support special populations. Ms. Prado pulled this for individual consideration. Ms. Prado?
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Dr. Puig, I have a question on the contract. Will you be speaking to the contract or is Ms. Silva available?
I am prepared to speak to the contract.
Okay. My question is this a new contract? Is there someone already that we are contracting with?
Okay, so a lot of these, the majority of these contracts are rollovers, but having scrubbed these contracts, let me put it into context for you. Ideally, we'd like to have our own employees, but these contract services, what impressed me, and I shared this with President Rodriguez when we scrubbed all of these, the rates are incredibly reasonable, and the caps on every one of these contracts are equally reasonable, and that's putting it mildly. Real impressed with Mrs. Silva and what she's put together in terms of negotiating those rates and those caps. And so we're confident that these folks are going to be available to provide the services in the midst of this pandemic and continue with the stewardship approach and the reasonableness of the relationship. And I say that because in other places I've been, some of these rates are different, a lot more elevated, to be quite frank with you. And so I'm encouraged by what we see here, and again, appreciative of the work of Ms. Silva putting these together.
Dr. Puig, my next question, I'm looking at the contract. The contractor is Accountable Healthcare Staffing. Is it a group of people that will be coming in to work side by side with our special ed department, or is it one individual?
Okay, so usually there's a team, and if it specifies individual, then it is that individual. If it specifies group, then there will be a cadre of people to provide those services.
Okay, because there is a name here, it says Josh Jones.
Okay.
So, and then it's part-time, and based on what we're paying him, I would think it was one person at $73 an hour. I think maximum is 23,000. So that sounds to me like it's just one individual.
Right, that's specific to that individual.
Okay, good. So, and they will be working in collaboration with our special ed department?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion on item number 1.
I make a motion to approve item number 1.
I have a motion by Ms. Prado. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Rasco. Michelle, a roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Kevin Rasco,
Yes.
Veronica Barba.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Ms. Prado. Item number 7, approval of teacher hired transferred under the terms of District of Innovation. Ms. Prado?
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Dr. Puig, the questions I have on here, I'm assuming because it says to approve the hire/transfer. So are these existing positions that are currently in the district that their people are working in these positions, and we're looking at transferring some of these and maybe hiring some new teachers? What is it exactly that we're doing?
Yes, we're going to provide some flexibility here with those that if they do choose to move into different positions within the district that they may not be certified for, the DOI allows us to do that. And with the new employees, obviously, the DOI allows us that flexibility to put them under that DOI umbrella. But the most important point here I want to make, whether it's these folks are transfer, whether they're new hires, is this. Providing the DOI was a great move by the school board to give the principals the flexibility to bring in some folks that may be content experts that are still working on certifications, and also allow us to provide our own pedagogy support, if you will, for these folks that are still learning the craft of executing teachers and supporting those teachers in their learning of the pedagogical methodologies that we expect. So I think that I'm very confident that the principals are going to provide the support, whether it's a transfer or whether it's a new employee. But we have to be very, very prescriptive about this because, again, DOI gives us the flexibility to make this move, but we need to be very, very focused on providing the necessary capacity building, if you will, and mentorship of these teachers that are coming into roles that they may not be traditionally certified in.
Ms. Prado, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. I was looking at the reopening update that we're going to get and the staffing that is still pending. Or will we be using some of these positions or the people in these positions to help staff those pending staffing at the West Campus, Athens, and Kazan?
I'm going to say it like this, potentially. When we start to look at staffing, and we're a month out, we need to be prepared to do some balancing and moving around. That's just good. That's just a good business model. You balance and you move around. So I want to be prepared to just say this. We need to be flexible. And so, yes, absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then my last question is, do any of these positions, have to do with special ed?
None of these positions are explicitly special ed. That doesn't mean that some of these folks may have that certification or may be pursuing some of those additional certifications And if they do, that just rounds out their marketability within our district to do more of that balancing that we're talking about.
And I know that the reason I asked is because I know we've been doing the staffing study that was very in-depth, and I thought that was a good thing to do. So our special ed department, and you may not know, I'm sure they briefed you, is we've had some issues in the past with the state mandate of 30%. So I would hope that we're not going to be eliminating any of our special ed positions because actually they need more help, if nothing else. So I'm glad to see that it's not going to eliminate. You're probably going to be, like you said, flexible and transfer, but there is no elimination of special ed positions.
Mrs. Prado, I'm glad you brought that up. It's very important that we are responsive to the special ed needs, particularly in the environment we're going to be in for the next several weeks. And so I don't see us eliminating any special ed. In fact, we added some special ed positions recently with respect to some of the coaching ranks, where we found 2 individuals are going to serve in the coaching ranks who happen to be very steeped in special ed and actually being case holders. So that just added to the capacity of the organization in the special ed area, and we were real excited about that.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because it's my understanding that even though with the COVID and there's been no instruction hands-on, that even the special ed department has been instructing the special ed kids through Zoom as well. So I think they've done their part. They continue to do their part to reach out to the special ed kids. So that's one population we don't want to miss. We want to make sure that we are keeping in touch with them and they're getting the services they need.
Mrs. Bauer, you're exactly right. That population continues to grow, and so we need to be responsive to that need. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. And yes, thank you for asking those questions. Extremely important. So thank you for that, Ms. Prado. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion on item number 7.
I move to approve item number 7.
I have a motion by Ms. Prado. Is there a second? I will second that. Michelle, we can have a roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Kevin Rasco,
Yes.
Veronica Barba.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, board members. The next item on the agenda are presentations and reports. Item number 1, monthly financial statements for June 2020. Dr. Puig? You're on mute, Dr. Puig. Dr. Puig, you're on mute if you can hear us.
It would, yes, sir. Thank you. It would not let me unmute while I was trying to share my document. Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. Let me run through the monthly financials for June, but let me preface it with this. I want to thank the board for their stewardship and their just mindfulness to the taxpayers and really being strategic with the allocations. That's what the report suggests. And let me pull it up right now so we can go through it together briefly. Can everyone see that?
No.
No?
Not yet.
Maybe it's my first day of doing this. How about this? How about now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh goodness, sir. Uh-oh. I bet you can now. Everyone okay?
Yes,
There
sir.
it goes. We see it.
Thank you. I apologize. Okay, so just a few things I want to point out. And we'll start with really looking at this number right here. So when you look at the amended budget, and again, I want to talk about the stewardship of the school board. I just joined the team a month and a half ago. And so this report really reflects the commitment of the school board and administration to operational efficiency and commitment to, again, good stewardship and fiscal health. But this number right here indicates, what does it what does it cost to run our company for the year? Okay, so, 86.6 million. So if someone asks you at CVS or HEB, well, what does it cost to run your company or your district monthly? Okay, well, that's about $7. At this point in the year, we've been running for 10 months. And so when you look at all of your functions here and you look at what you expended, and I say you, I'm going to add me in the mix. When we look at what we expended, this number probably would be closer to, 82, 83%. And we've got a positive spread here. We've only expended up to 78%. So my point is the fiscal health is very evident in the district. So kudos to the administration and the board for your decision making. But one more fiscal health component I think we need to emphasize is the fund balance. And that's what everyone focuses on when you look at, okay, are we doing a good job with our monies? Absolutely we are. And if we look at where the estimated fund balance is going to land here in August, $23 million, okay? $23 million. Is that good? Yes, it's very good because $23 million over this 86.6 represents about 27%. So 27% of your operational budget and fund balance is very healthy, very healthy. Typically, folks will recommend 15 to 20%. We're at 27%. So that story is something we need to share and tell and really continue, as Mr. Rodriguez said, with being very, very strategic with the budgeting process as we're doing now. So I just want to say the fiscal health continues not only in the general fund, but also in the food service fund. And also in the food service fund, and also in the debt service fund. And again, there's some drawdowns and things we need to talk about later. But overall, food service continues to run very efficiently at 240, and so does debt service. So we continue to trend fiscally in a positive direction. We just have to maintain the same strategic mindset moving forward. And that's what I have on the monthly financials.
Thank you for that, Dr. Puig. Board members, are there any questions regarding this item for Dr. Puig? Hearing none, we will move to the next item. Item number 2, the Police Department Services and Emergency Management Operations. Dr. Puig.
Well, thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. Our police department has done an extraordinary job of fostering a strong relationship with staff and with the students. And we have, having had a few police chiefs in my career, have been very, very good. We have an extraordinary police chief in Chief Tovar and his commitment to servant leadership. And today we want to allow him, I'm honored to introduce him and allow him to just share his story of what we're doing to continue to celebrate that relationship that the police department continues to build with our students and staff and broader community, and really kind of dive a little bit into some of the emergency operation things they're doing as well to support the safety during this time. So with that, I'm honored to introduce Chief Tovar.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the board, and Dr. Puig. Thank you for that grand introduction. I really appreciate that. It's an honor to be serving under you, sir, and the board as well. That nothing but support for the police department, and I can't ask for anything less, but thank you. And like I have conversations with you, I was amazed when you asked to share some of the things that South San Police has been doing and is still doing and will continue to do in this district because it values its resources. That's the students and the community and the staff that we work for. And I would gladly love to share that. Scott, if you could put the presentation, that's for the end, the annual report. Can you go ahead and put the other one up for this? I think it's the other presentation. Yes, sir. I think y'all have a copy of this. I wanted to share some things that we do as a police department first, and it's the operation portion of it. And I wanted to share, what does South San Police Department do behind the scenes. I love the deal behind the scenes, and we're called upon and not being recognized. I loved it because we're out there doing it, and we're not just doing it for show. We're people there really care about what we do, and we get, pat on the back behind the scenes. And I really enjoy getting that feedback from officers, teachers, staff, students. It's just endless, and we get blessed by that. But let me go ahead and share some of the things with some of the board that maybe have never seen what kind of structure the police department is doing in basic police services. This is called operations, and basically, I broke it down to you with the information I gave you about uniform services. I won't go to great detail about it because I gave you some of that information, but uniform services, we break it down to campus. During the day, it's going to be campus security for the students while they're on campus. And there's many things that we provide a service there on campus. One includes, the safety of anything, God forbid, any active shooter. But we also, while we're there, we're also trying to maintain a safe culture for the students to learn there, and that's very important. Safety and a culture that's vested without worrying about fear of anything happening is kids' success and outcomes, student outcomes, and so we play a major part in that they get successful outcomes, and we are happy when we see them on graduation crossing that stage, that we did our jobs and we did it well. And so with also uniform services, we also do patrol, and we patrol various other campuses during the day and other facilities after school hours. And we also patrol what they call it, not just campuses, but other facilities within the district to make sure that they're not vandalized or burglarized or anything of that nature. So that's what uniform services are, patrol, campus presence, and those kind of things. Special operations, that's a special detail where we have a criminal investigation division, where we have a sergeant that investigate cases because our students, if they're victimized or something, we want to make sure that they're fully covered and protected, and families that live in this district, that the extent of the law is out for them and watched out for them, that they are protected. And we make sure that working with the Bexar County DA's office and other agencies to make sure that if there was a crime committed, that would be taken care of for those victims. And also for property loss or property damage, that same things are investigated. And later on in the police report, I'll share with you some of how many cases we actually investigated and outcomes of that. But also special operations is that gang units, also special operations that we may have, special tasks that may happen that we may have to focus on, and we specialize on that particular problem and try to address it real quickly. So those special operations, there's different methods that we use in that focus there. Moving on to emergency management, I'll go into greater detail there, but basically the police department, and I want to clarify that with you, the board, is that to segregate your concept of, well, emergency management falls under the police department. It's a branch of the police department, but emergency management, later on I'll discuss to you and share with you, it encompasses district-wide services to provide safety for the children. So as far as the emergency management portion of it on the operations side for the police department, we assist in assisting with drills and any other items that pertain to the emergency management system. And I'll share that in greater detail, but I just want to give you just a roundabout. Mostly our impact is drills and stuff like that are at the campuses, and we help the administrators and stuff facilitate that and make sure that they're reported properly. So when we get audited, they're taken care of. Administrative services, that's the lieutenant. Lieutenant helps out in that area. A lot of administrative services behind the scene. There's a lot of work that carries on in that function. And in administrative services, people will rely on our police reports sometimes for accident reports that occur on the district or facilities that are damaged. We also help. It's just not necessarily just police action, but civil issues that we also address. People that get sick on school property, we also take reports on that to make sure that people are taken care of medically and stuff like that. So administrative services, a lot of people rely on administrative services, as well as outside agencies. Like the police department is regulated through Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, so we get regulated by the state, and we got to make sure that we're following all the procedures and guidelines as far as staffing is being qualified to perform their job out there, and so that's part of the administrative services that we provide. And then moving on, lastly, to the life safety systems. That's the camera systems that IT and school districts or school buildings have camera systems, and we have the Raptor system. And we also monitor and manage that through our dispatching system. And our officers have the capability to also utilize those systems in the event that we need it for further police work out there in the field. So basically those 5 functions are mainly what we do constantly out there at the police department. There's many other things that tasks that fall under those, but I just gave you the highlights of those. And I wanted to share that with you regarding our operations for the police department. And so basically, if we can go on from there, move on to the next, we can go ahead. I explained all those slides. Can you go up to the next 3 slides going up ahead? I apologize, I didn't number them. I didn't have the opportunity to get it done real quick, but if we can go ahead and move up, right there is fine. As you can see, the why do we do it? And the district has a vision. And so we want to make sure that the officers understand what is our primary goal. And I think that's what helps us define what our responsibilities here in the district are. So this is the district's vision, and this is the district's core beliefs, and this is the district strategies we also believe. But we went a step further and we said, okay, with the police department, what is our vision and what is our mission towards the district's vision? And so I wanted to share that with you. If we can scroll up a little bit further on the presentation, I can share what I have on the door. Every time an officer walks out our office, this is right there on the door for them to read. And it states, always ready to protect and serve the South San ISD community by providing a safe and drug-free environment for all members that it serves. So that's what our vision is for the district. As a police department, we want to make sure that it's a safe and drug-free environment for all of the members that are in this community. And then how we're going to accomplish that with our mission statement, which we can see on the next slide. And that one, there's 2 parts to that. One, the key words are collaborating efforts, and the other one is positive influence. And so I tell my officers, when you read this before you get out the door, there's a purpose of us, why we're doing what we're doing. And so collaborating with community partners, our school district, our leadership, our staff, the board, whoever it is within this stakeholders of here at this district, collaborating and getting things done, and with a positive influence, whether out there in the field with anybody that we come in contact, creates a safe environment and culture. So those are, I just wanted to share with you, that's our vision and our mission statement to keep our direction straight towards what we're trying to accomplish for the district's vision. And so I'm glad I can share that with you. And so if we can move on to the next portion of this presentation. As you see, I just explained to you the first function, which is the operations, what the police department does. But the next one is really dear and true to my heart as far as the blood of the department, or what I call the culture of the department. And if we go to the next presentation, oh, I'm sorry, before you go, and then go back one, Scott, please. And then to the right, I just wanted to show you off to the right, that's totally a separate component, which is the emergency management side, where I'll go into further detail. But that slide right there, or that graph, is just giving you a synopsis of what I'll explain further to you regarding that. And so if we can move on to the next slide. Okay, thank you. I already explained that. Go ahead to the next slide, please, sir. Okay. Now, the triad model is not something that I invented or anything, but they do it where I've learned to see or seen this in my studies. The East Coast police departments had developed some strategy or model called the triad model. And so this is what I instill with my officers when we do training. And basically, this model, I would like to go explain to you further in detail. And it has 3 components in this triad model: the law enforcement model, the educating model, and the mentorship model. If we can move on, I can go specifically into the law enforcement. The law enforcement is basically what I showed you, what the police encompass in those 5 functions that I explained to you about operations. Basically, law enforcement is there. But I want to specifically share with you about the officers training that we do for the district, for the staff, for the students, to make sure that we're always training. And so officers must take, this is a minimum requirement, 40 hours of training per every 2 years. And the type of courses I'd like to share with you, we do racial sensitivity courses, to tactical courses, to alert, which is active shooter training courses. We do special investigative topics, which if I can clarify it for you a little bit further, those titles, it's about how to de-escalate issues out there in the public, how to try to communicate verbally before you escalate to any kind of use of force. And so we take a lot of training emphasis on that. We also do scenario based training, doing those kind of things. If you can see to the right, there's some pictures there that kind of give you an example of some of the training that we do. You can see CPR conducted, we certified in CPR. We go to the range, we have to qualify every year annually. We just did that last week. All our officers pass. And so we also do drug searches at the campus, and then we get together and do different types of scenario training, like I said, active shooter training and additional training with other local agencies outside our department, so we can learn from their perspective, and they could also learn from our perspective. Because sometimes other agencies, policing is very specialized, and compared to another law enforcement agency, there are different functions. And so we learn from each other because we're doing different specializations out there. And so it kind of helps improve our overall safety when we're working relationships out there. And then also we get training in emergency management training. The officers, they also are trained through FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association, and the Police One Academy. This is something that I'm really happy to instill with our officers, because it's very difficult to get officers to get time off to go do some training. And so what I did was I got some online training that I pay for each officer to take as many training courses they want to on different subjects, a wide range of topics, from traffic stops to interaction with people, drug interdiction, human trafficking, all those things that they can take online and still do it, because it's kind of hard to take courses during the year when we're taking care of the kiddos. And so really the summertime is when we get some training, a lot of the training done. But throughout the year, I invested into our officers to get this. I purchased this Police One Academy, and they are allowed to take training, or even the supervisor can issue out training from this portal. So I'm excited about that, officers receiving training. And then I also teach our staff every year about servant leadership training, and servant leadership training is one of the emphasis that I think molds our police department in treating the community as if we were treating my mom or my dad if we interacted, and saying, how can we help you? And those things should be coming out of our officers' mouth. And if they don't, you give me a call quickly. But anyways, I just wanted to share with you regarding servant leadership. We're here to serve. And so if we're here to serve the community, and by doing so, the community will also support the police department by serving them well. And so that's my philosophy as far as the training aspect of it. And there's other training that we do, but I just wanted to share that aspect, emphasize on the law enforcement portion of it, and move on. And so I wanted to share that with you, so you understand that the officers are heavily trained out there throughout the years. If we go on to the next slide, sir, and we go into the educate portion of it. And also, I feel that pictures say 1,000 words. You can just see the interaction and the engagement with the community to educate our students. Some of the things that I've listed to the left here, you can see we assist the campuses with Dr. Seuss, Read America. We do bike rodeos here and there. We talk to elementary kids about stranger danger and topics related to that. And then also Red Ribbon Week, we tell the kids to stay away from drugs and stuff like that. And that also is in the elementary area. And then in the middle schools, we have engagement with the kids at Career Day, and we get invited by the campuses to come out and, just to share our experiences with the students, so they can understand maybe one day they want to come into the police department or police force or some kind of law enforcement where they can serve back to their community. And then we also interact with school safety patrol training. this year, one of our new officers, we have 2 female officers that have heavily participated in that, and not male officers as well. But this year, they took the responsibility on to go out there patrol training and raise money to get some of these students some shirts and stuff from outside agencies, and the kids' smiles are just a reward to see when they're given these shirts and stuff to be part, looking like they're doing the patrol training out there in the public and assisting out there with the community. So we also have interaction engagement with high school Police Explorer program. We have some officers that engage with the Police Explorers, and we'd like to also extend that out. In my next model, I'll share with you some more on that Police Explorer program. And we also help the South San Care Zone. A lot of times we have issues with mental illness, and so or need some mental help or whatever, soliciting for those resources. And we assist care zones with that, with helping parents and help them understand how we can help them in their dire need and at that time. So we're so happy to help Ms. Arciniega with that, and we've been partnering up this last 2 years, and it's been great. We also educate them on the standard response protocols, which is part of the emergency management process that I was explaining to you earlier, like lockdowns, lockouts, shelter in place, evacuations, and hold the bells. Those are the 5 main protocols that we're using at the district. And so we train those with the staff and our kids and anybody, the staff, so we can be prepared for the event that may come or arise. So people have the basic knowledge of that. So if we can go ahead, and that's the portion we've done under educating the students. And the last part is the mentorship. And that's where I was talking to you earlier about the South San High School Explorer program. If you can see the pictures there at the high school football games, they help us out and they monitor and watch some of the things out there at athletic games and report to us if something they see, it may be a potential hazard or something like that. They never get in Light's way, but they're always accompanying an officer, and from a distance they learn to see how the interaction is. And they also participate in the Blue Santa Parade with us. We take them out there and they give back to the community, these students. So they understand the law enforcement side, and we also share with them how to be a servant to the community. And so it's great to share that. And so also talking about expanding the Police Explorer program to the middle school and see how we can do that. I think Kazin Middle School was one of the sites that we may be interacting with that too. So we can get a feel to when we go to the high school, they can just transfer on over and we'll have a higher number and hopefully join the high school Police Explorer program when they get to the high school. So we're looking to get that effort done this year going forward. And so there's also one of the other aspects is final aspect that I like to talk about is the leadership and mentorship partnership with Region 20 for at-risk students at DEAP and Kazin Middle School. We had an officer that would mentor some of the students that were at risk individually on a Monday, come in and just see and say, hey, how you doing? And then by the end of the week, get them prepared for the weekend. So some of these kids have challenges and they look to the officers for some advice and mentorship, and whether it's just that bond to get successful for the whole week. Some of these kids come in needing some help and support, and this leadership mentorship partnership with the officer, just meeting with some of these kids just to talk about some issues, kind of helps them out for the week there, their studies. And so also, if you see that picture where the officer with the orange, the young girls with the orange shirts, and there's some firefighters there. This officer did an initiative at Dwight Middle School where he, with the administrative staff, did a tug of war, and at the end they had a water balloon fight. But the goal is not these at-risk kids wouldn't get in trouble for the remainder of the last 2-3 months of the school year. They would be able to participate in this. This has been done for the last 2-3 years and has been a success. These kids It's been a great reward for the officers to see this kind of interaction with these mentorship programs. So this is what we're doing in the police department. If we go into the last one, I said it was triad model, but we also believe in community service. And this is some of the stuff that we do, officers that we do on our own time, some volunteer our own time. And so they come in and they participated in some of these events like Little Paul's Holiday Toy Drive that we put on every year for the district to try to give our own kids some gifts for that time of year. And sometimes it's hard for some of these families, and we go the extra mile to try to raise as much toys that we can give to our own kids here at South San ISD. And then we did district parade. Senior parade was a success this year. It was great to see the community get together, and we do things like National Night Out, and we support the Blue Santa with also that happens during the year. And like I said, you could see the engagement there with community service, with officers donating their time to come in and give of their service. And so that's even a greater accomplishment when they come in and do it on their own time. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate those officers that do that. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you regarding the triad model that we implement in our police department here at South San. And so the operation portion and then the triad model that we follow, hopefully this gives you an idea of what South San ISD Police Department does. Also to just share with you, during this time of COVID, I understand, the reports of kids, out there looking for that bond and mingle, they don't get that bond with the kids and interaction. My officers were telling me stories just today that they were out patrolling, and we have some backpacks, and there was she gave me a story that a little kid was walking down the street with a parent, and she stopped by and she gave the young student, told her hi and everything, and told her, hey, you ready to come back to school? And just having those conversations with the kiddos, because I told my officers, you see kids out there, you reach out to them and tell them, hey, we're waiting here for you to return. So when it's safe to do so, we're here to take you in. Well, we have some backpacks that we had over from the DARE program that was here about 5 years ago. And so we had some leftover, a clear backpack. So what I had the officers do is say, hey, let's issue these out. Let's give them out to the community. You see kids, some of these teddy bears that we had left over for Christmas. During this COVID time, I said, if we see kids out there, whatever, let's get that interaction, tell them about South San Police ISD School District, and that we're here waiting for them to return. And that's another form of engagement we've been doing during the COVID. And also during the COVID, we've also helped the nutrition department as far as when they were issuing out the food for the community, and we'll continue to do so when it starts up again. So those are the things that we're doing actively and continually here behind the scenes, and we'll continue to do so. So we're proud of that, and I'm happy to just share those two functions of the police department that we're doing. Now I'm going to be moving on to the last portion of my presentation. It's going to be about the emergency management. This is a very big, major task, and I wanted to share with you, but I'm going to be going to just a brief synopsis of it, because it's a major task that needs to be done district-wide. And so I just wanted to share with you just a little bit about what the emergency management is. Scott, if you can move to the next slide, I think it is on there. Yes. So basically, this slide right here is a breakdown of the district emergency management. What I wanted to share with you about district emergency management, we have to have a district emergency management plan, which we've had over the years. Basically, we have an emergency operation plan, a multi-hazard emergency operation plan. And we have established a safety security committee that was back in February, in March. And so we need to go ahead and start revamping and getting the district emergency management coordination ready to pursue the district part of where you see here, there's 4 categories: prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. So those are 4 phases of emergency management. And in the emergency management, if you look at those categories or those titles, can you kind of make it a little bit bigger there, Scott, for me on the wording there, because it's kind of small. But on the preparedness, the prevention aspect of it, the district, I just wanted to share, I broke it down in the next slide, if you could see it, about the prevention that the school district's doing in this task areas. Police department is there as a prevention. And you have the Raptor system, you have the training to the staff of the protocols, school safety audits, which need to be evaluated by the Security and Safety Committee regarding how to improve our campuses. And then we also have safety, well, we have the safety, and it also has to be implemented with the threat assessment teams for their district now. So in the event, just to give you a little summary about it, if, for example, if a student says they wanted to shoot this building up or students up, or they want to do danger to themselves, no longer the threat assessment team would do is evaluate it and make sure that we're on top of the situation to make sure that that student and all the students within the district are protected and all the resources are utilized to defuse the situation before it happens. So that's the prevention aspect of the emergency management. So we want to be proactive in doing so district-wide with all our resources. So it may be the counselors, it may be the police department, it may be the administrative staff. So that's what I'm trying to explain to you about district emergency management. It encompasses a larger scale of operation towards safety. And so that's what I wanted to share with you regarding prevention. Preparedness, the district emergency operation plan that we have in place is currently being updated for the Safety Security Committee to approve it and make a recommendation to the board that it's ready to go for the district. And then moving forward, that the drills be taken every year. The drills are being done properly throughout every campus and facilitated properly. So those are the things that we do to prepare in the event that something does happen. So those things are strategies that we're going to be focusing on this coming school year regarding those things. We do them every year. Mandatorily, the fire drills must be done every month, and now the state has required that all these other drills that I explained to you about lockdown and all that, they must be done. Each task must be done once and 8 times, total of 8 times a school year. So they expanded the drills to be more prevalent and documented. So those are the things that we have to do as far as preparing, and then coordinating with outside agencies, which we do currently, coordinating with outside agencies in the event to assist with if something should happen on our district. And remember, it's just not active shooter. I just don't want you to just think active shooter. I want you to think of chemical spills. I want you to think of something that may happen. It may be minor. Spill, a cafeteria fire, or classroom fire, bathroom fire, it may be a dog bite, it may be all these things, but it's a multi-hazard plan that we have in place to react or to respond to it. So this district emergency management plan will help administrators assist when they need the information or guidance to do so, and then people and staff will be prepared to how to react to in case of that event. So basically, when we respond to a crisis, these things are in place. We do those protocols, lockdown, evacuations, that's for fire drills, shelter in place, tornadoes, bad weather, those kind of things are in place for how do we respond in the event that there is a crisis. So those are the things that we do when we do in the preparedness, but when it actually happens, we hope that our training, our preparedness gets us to respond to the nature of the crisis. And so therefore, that's our action plan. What are we going to do? Are we going to go to another campus, and that's all done by an incident command system. And so within the emergency management, the Safety and Security Committee will understand once I go further into detail with them as how the incident command system should work for the district. And that includes the board, the superintendent, a PIO, and all logistics of different areas of the district that has responsibilities to carry out in the event of a crisis or emergency. So the emergency for recovery, once we get to the past the phase of response, we go to recovery. And recovery is how do we continue to make sure that the service continue within the district, and how we continue to educate our students while this crisis is going. And so the faster we recover, the better we are getting back to full staff and what we need to do, and prepare ourselves to better prepare ourselves in the event of another district emergency manager that we may face. And so the recovery is to get counseling service to kids. How do we do that? And get them back to our level of educating our kids, our primary goal. So I just wanted to share with you what it entails about district emergency management. And it's not just solely on the police department. I just wanted to share with you, this is a district-wide collaborative effort that is being done. And currently it's being done right now. I'll just share with you with the task force that's being implemented at this point about the COVID situation, procedures, what's going to be done, how they're going to come to schools and all that kind of stuff. So this is being done in a larger scale. District emergency management plans are designed for crises like this, mainly for short-term crisis, but you never know, like in this pandemic, it may be a long-term crisis. So we implement those things like task force like that to specialize a major incident like this. So with that being said, I just wanted to share with you the superintendent asked me to share this with you, the board, and if you had any questions, I would be happy to try to answer for you. If I don't have the answer at this point, I'll definitely try to find the answer to you and get to you as soon as possible. But thank you for the time, and I thank you for your support.
Thank you for that, thank you for that, Chief Tovar. Dr. Puig, were you going to say something before I offer the board members an opportunity to ask questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Rodriguez and trustees, for an opportunity to respond and ask questions of Chief Tovar. Chief Tovar, I know we just started working closely together. Can you elaborate a little bit the vision that you created? It's wonderful, safe and drug-free schools for all. In supporting that effort, do we have K-9 officers available, and do we have K-9 units available? And if we do, how many, and how is that working? Is it successful? What do the data look like in addressing some of the potential drug issues? And if we don't have it in place, how do we collaborate with the city and or the county to provide that service?
Sure, I'd be glad to answer that. We outsource that resource as far as K-9 services. We outsource it with a company that comes out, and specifically we have specific times that I don't want to disclose over our conversation here, but we do them several times throughout the year. And then we do specialize when we get the need from a principal that says, or reports, or we see data that shows or supports that there's an increase of drug activity on the campus. And then we respond to it, but we proactively respond all the time. But logistically, we outsource that dog K-9 service. Now, however, we also use other agencies to help us. There's different types of dogs, like you said, for drug dogs, but sometimes we may have a bomb threat or something like that. We have local agencies like SAPD or Bexar County that will solicit some of their canines to help in those special events at no charge, just that we have an agreement for those type of issues. But no, we outsource K-9. We don't house any K-9 units here at the police department, but we outsource it. And when we do need it, we get them here quickly.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief Tovar.
Thank you for that, Dr. Puig. Board members, any questions or comments for Chief Tovar? I think I saw Mr. Flores raise his hand first. Mr. Flores?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Chief Tovar, I just want to thank you for your awesome presentation. I believe that I should be first to just be grateful for the service and the sacrifice that you and your department have for our district. At the same time, serving the badge, but also beyond the badge. And just the story of community relations are awesome. But just the detail that you have in your plan that says a lot about what our officers are enduring, what they're taking on, and what they're displaying. Sometimes we can't see that just in their uniform, but they actually have quite a bit going on right there behind that badge. And so I appreciate the education that you're giving them, the opportunity to learn a lot more, and then of course to reach out to the community. And I have a couple of questions that some of them are just they are not on here, but they're concerns of mine or questions that I have. And one would be, are we up to par on staff? Are you short officers, or are we on par, or where are we at on the staffing efforts of the department?
Well, when it comes to staffing, I always say, that collaborative effort with the superintendent, we go ahead and look at what we need, and then based on what the board's desire and the superintendent's view of what we need covered here, and I give my recommendation that, well, it's a collaborative effort, but I could always say I could use a lot of officers, but I've always said police services is just not personnel. It's a lot of things collaboratively working together. It's like an onion. I've always explained that there's different layers of services. We have personnel, we have resources as far as, cameras, body cameras. All these things are just layers and layers of security. Yes, and I'm going to share that about personnel with the superintendent. Directly of what the basic needs are that I feel that are necessary to get that. But like I said, that's a discussion that I really would like to share with just the superintendent and the board regarding staff. Because if I get a specific number, a lot of times, it may not, there's always factors that impact that. So like this year, we have a West Campus High School, so we have to increase our numbers because of the necessity or requirements because of those. But there's variables out there, depending on what kind of services you want to provide. If we're looking at initiatives to do community outreach, we may need another additional officer to supplement that or support that. But I try to find ways with the officers or the resources I have to implement that, what I have currently. But those discussions, I love to just have them with the superintendent, his staff, and come with a collaborative effort to say yes or no, or this, if you don't give them proposals and they say, well, no, we can't do this, whatever the variable is. But we're going to make sure, I can make you 100% sure that whatever resources I'm given, there's going to be coverage in this whole district and provide safety and security for the whole community. Whatever that resource number is or that determination is, I can guarantee you we're going to do our best to make sure that we provide a service and that the community is safe. I hope I could answer you.
Well, I would like to say, Chief Tovar, that as a district trustee, I am very interested in finding out if we're shorthanded or we at enough, because security is one thing, but also the protection of our assets to me is huge. The district has invested money in reopening schools, and so there are new things out there that are resting on sites that are open now, and I want to be comfortable and convey that to the community members and the constituents that the stuff that we're purchasing is going to be safe also. So I understand all those other intangibles that you're explaining, and I don't, and I would, I think it's okay to say, what, we need more, not to be a secretive backdoor conversation, and and it conveys those. I get it, that part, but I'd also like to know, are we going to be all right? And aside from that, I know I only have a few minutes, but if I don't finish, I'd like for it to come back. But there's some other things I want to think about. One is PPE for COVID-19. How prepared? How are our officers outfitted with that right now? Where are we at? What's the status and the condition on that?
Okay, currently I personally purchased some PPE for our officers that they have a little badge on the side and to wear, and it's washable and clean. But we also provide. I got with the Miss Olivo with the district, and she's been gracious to provide us with some PPE. I know there's some PPE coming in shortly with the district. But we've been giving gloves, some PPE masks for the officers. We also got a donation of sanitizer, believe it or not, to our department, where we have access to that. Maintenance has been graciously coming out every week to spray our vehicles with chemicals to make sure that it's contaminated free. So when they come in, the officers come in every daily. They do a checklist and temperature. We do a temperature check process. If they feel sick, we ask them to stay home. There's all these guidelines and procedures in place to make sure that their well-being is kept and met. And if they feel unsafe or something, I ask them to report that immediately to the supervisor or myself, so we can address those issues. But safety is paramount, and the community's safety as well. So the officers have been advised to wear their PPE while they're out in the public, and as well whenever they feel safety reasons need to do so, and follow the CDC guidelines as well. So as far as that is concerned, we're going to continue to get those resources from the district, because the district has purchased some of that stuff in the event for our kids as well. But for our staff, we have these procedures in place.
Lastly, like I said, intangibles, because the weather's hitting 100 degrees and 105 degrees and things like that. How are our vehicles? Are our officers in air-conditioned vehicles?
Yes, sir, they are. And thank you for the board. We had a plan, I think the past 5 years, where cars were being replaced, at least 2 vehicles per year. That's something I'm going to have to share with the superintendent going forward, as far as, in the future, maybe having a plan in the future to start replacing some of those units. So the district's aware that in the next 2 years, we may start doing that same plan that we did about 5-6 years ago, so it won't be one big cost. But the gracious of the board provided us some vehicles in the past 5 years, at least getting us 2 cars or vehicles. So we're up to that, and they're fairly new. The oldest one in our fleet is a 2014. And I have data to share with the superintendent as far as mileage and stuff like that later on I can share with him, that he can facilitate that to you. I don't have that knowledge right now on hand, but I can get that information to him to share that with you, as far as any information regarding our vehicles. But they all have AC.
I appreciate it, Chief Tovar, and again, I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your department and them again, just getting out there on the forefront and representing South San well. Thank you very much, and I just definitely want you to know that, hey, I want to be on record to say I'm in support of what you need and when you need it, and however we can get it as fast as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And like I said, I gave you a activity report on that deal about the facilities. On there, it has they're about talking about building security checks. You can see the numbers have increased during the COVID time. So we had no major incidents at none of our facilities ever since we've been covering the district 24/7. So that's kudos to my guys. I'm kind of happy they're doing foot patrols out there. They increased their building checks for the last 3 months from 922 checks in March, 993 in April, to 1,553 in May, and 1,641 checks of our campuses and facilities in the last 4 months. So they're either walking it, spotlighting it, or checking on doors out there after hours during the day to make sure that there's no vandalism. And kudos to the community. They do take care of our schools. They respect our schools, I believe, our community, and for the most part. And but the officers are doing very well to make sure that they're safe and secure for those kids when they come back to utilize those services. So I'm kind of happy at this point that kind of building checks are being done at this time.
Thank you for that, Chief Tovar. Thank you, Mr. Flores. Are any board members have comments or questions for Chief Tovar? Hearing none.
I do.
Ms. Alderete?
Yes. Hi, Chief. How you doing?
Hey, Ms. Alderete, how you doing?
I'm doing good, a lot better. Well, I'm glad to hear that we're keeping our copper and our AC units now. It's so important.
Yeah.
But I'm going to jump back to the beginning of your presentation, or midpoint, where you talked about your Explorers program. Everybody here knows I am a huge support system for our police department. My daughter's a police officer, so I know what it entails. Not for the district, but she's a police officer. And I love the initiative of the Explorers program. That's huge to me because in this time and this day, the relationship between officers and children is different. And for you to make that communication and that relationship with children is big. It's huge. So can I ask you how, because I know how the city does it, and they actually now, because I actually pushed for this with the city, fund the Explorers uniforms because they can be pretty pricey. So can you tell me how you guys fund your uniforms?
Well, that's very difficult on our end, but the kids do, like at the high school, they do fundraisers with the officers and try to raise money to get, a shirt or some items that they could utilize at the campus or for training purposes or whatever, but they try to do that. But it's very minimal because of the numbers they have on the Explore program. So.
And do they run? Do the uniforms run about the same as the ones that SAPD and Bexar County use?
They can. They're pretty pricey. The ranges on that can be very expensive. For
yeah, my son's
shirt, pants, and then the equipment that go with it. But we can look at resources as far as like the belts and all that, the utility belts and stuff that they can turn them in at the end of the year, and reuse them for the following year and that kind of stuff. So we can look at aspects of that capacity. But the uniforms, a lot of times, it's like if they use them, we're not going to reissue them out to.
So I've seen other districts that have the program, and kids actually compete. So I would hate for South San to be the lower part of this, this thing going on with the Explorers. And I'm not sure, so I'm going to task Mr. Rodriguez and Dr. Puig and everybody else in that group. Is this something we can look at? Because I can tell you that my son did the Explorers program with SAPD, and it was a huge difference in him. He was a very quiet kid. It built his self-esteem. It made him more strong, and not just physically, but mentally. It grew him, it gave him power within himself. And I think this is a really good opportunity for us to invest in our kids. And I know it's not for a credit. I wish it could be. I don't know if we could ever get tied into them doing the Explorers program and it being a credit. But I would just like to see if there's some way that we can help, because a lot of our families struggle, right? A lot of them, and it's pricey. And if we can somehow help Chief Tovar with that, that would be amazing. I don't want to say we can promise anything, but if we can please look, I think it would grow the program, and it's a really good thing to do. I've seen kids, with the SAPD program that has just changed their lives, and they're now officers. And these are kids from our district. And as we tell each other, man, there's nothing better than seeing our kids graduate from here and come back and serve our district, right? And in every profession, to include our police department. And I have to say that I have been one of those people who has benefited from South San Police. When my daughter had some problems and they stepped in, they're not just an officer in a uniform. These guys are counselors. And now women, I'm super excited about that. But the relationship is huge. So I think the more that we can support them when it comes to this, and Tovar, I've always said, whatever's needed, I'm there. I always have been, and I always will be, because I think it's very important, and I've proven how important it is to have enough officers. So thank you for all you do, and Dr. Puig and Mr. Rodriguez. I hope somehow, some way we can, shift in there and help them out if possible. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Alderete. I would like to just, Mr. Rasco, yes.
Sorry, I didn't want to get left behind. So, Chief Tovar, just thank you to you and all your staff. I'm going to second what Mr. Flores has said and Ms. Alderete, and I don't want to speak for you, but what I think Mr. Rodriguez will say, and you provide a very valuable service to our schools and to our communities, and everything's centered around protecting and serving. So thank you for the job that you do in protecting our students against active threats, drugs, and gangs, protecting our buildings. And thank you for the service that you do to our community. School resource officers serve such an important role in establishing a healthy relationship between students in their formative years and the police force. And so I'm really gratified to see that the work that you do, and I love one of your core beliefs that you stated was that you want to constructively engage with the community. And I think that right there by itself, even without all the other things that you do, that's just one of the most valuable things that you could do for our kids, is to show them how to have a really healthy relationship with the police force and how to engage properly. And I think that it's fantastic, the work that y'all are doing, and just go on record and say we support you, and let us know through Dr. Puig, what if you have specific needs. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Roscoe. I certainly want to echo what my colleagues are sharing. What I surmised from your presentation, Chief, is that you and your team are being proactive in building those relationships and establishing trust and confidence with the community and our students, our staff, administration. I think that goes a long way, and into saying that we're not just going to show up when something bad happens, right? We're here to be positive influences, like you've spoken to, be role models, be mentors. So I think that entirely is an approach that I'm supportive of. Certainly, I will go on record and say that defunding the police is not the answer. The answer is to afford the chief of police an opportunity to consistently and efficiently train his officers so they can meet any situation, right? Meet head on any situation and resolve. So, whatever those resources might be, I'm glad that you're communicating that you look forward in having that discussion with Dr. Puig. Certainly, he's going to listen to everything that you have to say and then share down to the Board of Trustees what those needs might be. So we're here to support you, and thank you for choosing, you and your officers. It's a choice that you make every day to get up and strap it on and come in and protect and serve. So having children in the district, thank you for that personally. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? Thank you very much. Moving on to the next agenda item is item number 3, the update on the implementation of the reopening of schools, West Campus High School, Athens Elementary, Kaizen Middle School, and the alternative campus. Dr. Puig.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. Several months ago, the South San ISD School Board had a big vision for reinventing South San ISD. And this included the reinvention, the reopening of Athens, Kaizen, West Campus, and other related projects. So at this time, I'm honored to invite Mrs. Sendejo to provide an update on that vision. Mrs. Sendejo?
Yes, sir. Thank you, and good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the board, Superintendent Puig, our community, and our staff that are with us this evening. We are here to share the upcoming and just the status of where we are with our campuses: West Campus High School, Athens Elementary, Abraham Kaizen Middle School, and our DAEP. Please know that the original presentation that you received is out of sync with the presentation, as we are going to move the update for West Campus High School to the end, as we do have just a video treat for you that we're excited to share with you this evening. So with that being said, Mr. Lalaman, can you shift over to the next slide? Thank you. Slides are limited with information because I know that I can be quite wordy at times, but really wanted to keep it brief and to share the specifics of where we are with every one of our campuses. I had the opportunity to meet with every one of our instructional leaders. Athens Elementary, Mr. Carranza has been phenomenal. We briefly spoke about the current returning enrollment at 180 students out of 191, 94% have already committed for the 2020-2021 school year, with 8 new enrollments. Alongside with that, we do have our pre-K and our Head Start numbers rounding about 16. I will tell you when we do come back, possibly here in a couple of weeks and early next month, given the opportunity to report again, as I do know that Superintendent Puig sends the updates. Mr. Carranza and I have had conversation. He has about 15 students, pre-K students in the pipeline to register. And I shared with our principals earlier today, our elementary principals, we keep enrolling our pre-K 4s. We have had that opportunity, and we thank you for allowing that to take place, as we are aware that in the past we were not registering all our pre-K 4s, and we do not want to leave any of them out there. So again, thank you for that. Keep going there, Scott. In my conversation with Mr. Carranza, the only position that is pending to be filled to complete the full staff over at Athens Elementary is a special education teacher. Anyone that is out there, if you know of someone, we continuously communicate with the Human Resources Department, our HR team, of course, and other potential certification programs in hopes to have this position filled. For all I know, right now, it could be a recommendation already in place. And if it is, we'll gladly share that and update you all here soon. Moving on to our K's in middle school, as you are aware, we welcome Ms. Judy Benavides as our new instructional principal leader at K's in middle school. She has come in the first conversation we had, Mrs. Sendejo, what are my numbers and what do I need to work on as far as enrollment? So she, along with her team, has been nonstop. If you see, Mr. Flores, if you see the white bus out there in your area, it is Ms. Benavides. It's out there finishing up on registration. So that she's very proud. We're at 144 out of 210 students and shifted over to 69%. With 3 additional enrollments, new enrollments coming into our K's in middle school. Staffing pending for our K's in middle school is our academic coordinator for architecture, construction, and design. So we are moving that forward. I do know that she is in the process of interviewing and making a recommendation to Superintendent Puig. The same goes for the math teacher and the math instructional coach. And once those 3 positions are filled, she would be fully staffed there as well. This here, it's exciting as we continue to have conversations about the potential coaching opportunities there for our fall sports, pending, of course, all UIL and the conference information that is coming from the athletic department. In my conversation with our principal there is parent communication that's also sharing just really updates of where we are as we move along in this school year. I know we are still pending what timelines, what schedules will look like, possibly even cancel games. However, I know that Ms. Benavides, along with Mr. Machado, are making every effort to ensure that the athletic program at Kaizen starts off positively. For those of us, again, some background with Kaizen Middle School last year, based on the number of students and continued feeder patterns here, we did have some of our student athletes from Kaizen attend and be a part of the Zamora athletic program there. Ultimately, what we would like is that our Kaizen Middle School has their own programs at every sport. In my conversation with Mr. Philip Barron a couple of weeks ago, as we know, we welcome Mr. Barron as our head football coach at South San High School. However, he is also our athletic coordinator. And what an opportunity that we have there, because he and I got to spend some time and have some discussions about athletics in general at the middle school and potential opportunities at the elementaries as well. And he told me, he says, Mrs. Sendejo, back in the day, Kaizen was a powerhouse. Kaizen was the powerhouse of middle schools in our district. And I don't know if Mr. Malden is on, but I know that over at Zamora, there's quite a bit of competition there. So I do know that this is coming, and it's definitely an opportunity for us to synergize and get our student athletes going there at Kaizen Middle School. And I have no doubt with Ms. Benavides' leadership that will take place very, very soon. Our DAEP members of the board, as you all are fully aware, and the ongoing updates that have been provided to you, we've had a transition planned. We welcome our DAEP program back last year. It has been led by Mr. Long, and he has done a phenomenal job there. It was originally housed in the annex building next to the central office. As we have made the transition into our new central office, we now will be and are actually executing the transition plan for the Anne Marie Hernandez building. And for those of you that may not know where this is located, it is right in front of our Zamora Middle School. The Ana Marie Hernandez building is a beautiful building, such a great learning space for our students. And we are currently working very closely with Mr. Long, along with our facilities department, to ensure that we're up and ready. Here lately, I know that we have been painting, because again, the building is in a very good condition. For those of you, again, that may not be familiar, our Anne Marie Hernandez building was serving and supporting the Parent-Child Incorporated, PCI, program collaborative that we've had in place with Dr. Small. We have been communicating with Dr. Small very closely and have been enrolling our Head Start students into our PCI students into our Head Start program. As of now, we have about 29. We are working into the next steps here before August 12th to ensure that we have one last meeting with Dr. Small to ensure that every one of our Head Start students under PCI get enrolled into our school district. Superintendent Puig, we can definitely share that particular information as it is not part of this presentation, but I do know that it is definitely important to our Board of Trustees to know those numbers and how many of our students are enrolling. And ultimately, that is the reason why we have this collaborative and, of course, MOU in place with PCI. Mr. Lalaman? Happy to say that our DAEP is 100% staff. As you can see, those are all the staff that are currently serving there for this new academic school year, along with Mr. Long. Please know that he has come in along with this team to really ensure that there is a positive environment, a reflective environment for our students that are entering into the DAEP and have that opportunity to transition back to our high schools or our middle schools. We will begin with about 40 students that may have less than, I would say, equivalent to 3 points one day till about 15 days for this new year. When we transitioned due to COVID-19, oh boy, to see the activity and the action and just the leadership of the team there to consistently provide all the tools that we needed to ensure that our students that were placed during this time did serve and transition out. And if they did not, of course, we're welcoming them back. So there is definitely some growth there that is taking place. And we were scheduled to bring Mr. Long to a meeting here in August. So Dr. Puig, that may be coming to you just to provide that update of the whole year for 2020, 2021. I'm sorry, 2020, for the 2020 school year. And so that's coming soon. West Campus High School, just such positive energy. There's so much going on there. My PowerPoint here has a limited information because we do want to finish with a brief video for you all just to give you an update of where we are. Current enrollment is at 108. I received a message from Ms. Cardenas just about 40 minutes ago that she enrolled 4 new students. And I absolutely love it because what happens is I typically get random calls from our principals or text messages and say, Mrs. Sendejo, we enrolled 3 more students. And you definitely will see that here in the next presentation because the numbers keep moving. So that will place our West Campus High School at about 60%. We are working extremely closely with Ms. Cardenas and other lead team members to ensure that we can offer every single opportunity possible there at West Campus High as a form of an investment as we continue growing and prepare for our Peak Tech Academy for the next academic school year. New student enrollment, we have 8 currently as of today. We do have some staff pending as well as some recommendations that have been made. There has been a recommendation made for the instructional coach for English Language Arts and Social Studies. We're excited about the dance opportunity. There is a recommendation there as well. We are working closely as we do have some athletic coaching positions, so it's a combination there that also align closely with science and mathematics as well. And that is why you see just the vacancies there pending. I've communicated with Ms. Cardenas as well, and we're working very closely with Ms. Cerveon, our CAO, to ensure that we can get these positions filled, and very closely with our HR department. We do have some potential candidates, and they're being processed as well to continue. Art is the bonus. In the midst of preparing for the master's schedule, we had some great interest for art, and makes total sense as we are feeding from our Finance Academy as a feeder pattern from Shepherd Middle School. And with that, in conversation with Superintendent Puig, he said, Mrs. Sendejo, make it happen and let's get it on there. So this is why you see art there. Originally it wasn't, and because of the need, and we want to ensure that we have all the courses available there for our students, the position is now posted. Lastly, athletics. Last month, actually no, a few weeks ago, we did have some highlights specifically for our West Campus High School of our head coach being hired for football, and our basketball coach, and our boys basketball coach, and our girls basketball coach. I'm excited to share that we also have our head volleyball coach also hired, and that is Ms. Veronica Valdez. I'm sorry, not even hired. She transferred from South San High School, so we're excited to also ensure that she has a great and successful year. Because of the number of students, most of our coaches will be coaching multiple sports at this time. So we are still pending a baseball coach, a head golf coach, and our softball coach. And again, if and when these get filled by next week or prior to August 12th, we will be providing those updates to Superintendent Puig to provide you those updates as well. Mr. Lalaman, I'm thinking that is the last slide. Can you verify that for me there?
Yes, ma'am. That's the last slide.
Mr. Lalaman?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I frozen?
That is the last slide.
I think she's having some connectivity issues there. Mr. Lejo, Mr. Lejo, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. You're frozen up.
If you guys don't mind, she does have a video that I have seen that I believe that she was going to play next.
Yeah, if we can, Ms. Collier, Dr. Puig, if you're okay, we can give her a minute or so so that she can get back connected.
Yes,
She was
ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, looks like she just dropped. She's probably going to be connected here in a second. You're about another 30 seconds. If not, we'll move on.
Yes, sir.
She's trying to get back on. She just texted me.
Okay, Michelle, thank you.
So I'm thinking that my computer is telling me to be quiet and share with you all this last slide. West Campus encumbrances as of July 9th, members of the board, as you are aware that you received this report, this ongoing report that has happened for the last year and a half. Some of those encumbrances entail the school board, the scoreboard table, the score tables, the gymnasium flooring and equipment, our locker room equipment, and our classroom furniture, and a little more to come here as we wrap up those orders and continue to send that forward to our Superintendent Puig. But with that being said, yes, we do. We have a brief treat for you. What better way, again, to share with you some of those updates than have you view those this evening. So, if
you could pause the video there for a second, I'm actually going to pull use Mr. Homer Flores. I'm going to use what he did the last time first. I want to say that I absolutely love my Bobcats. So don't ever question my commitment and loyalty. Right now, we are going to watch a video that's West Campus related. So I'm going to put my West Campus cap on.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the board, Superintendent Puig. Alongside all our community that is watching us this evening, we are excited to be here and to provide you just a snippet of what is taking place at West Campus High. And we felt what
Well, we were afraid of that.
There we go. It's coming.
Here we go. Here we go.
Patience is the virtue.
Yes, ma'am.
We've learned that in this process.
I think Mr. Lonham is using the old pause so it buffers there for a second and then it'll start playing.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the board, Superintendent Puig. Alongside all our community that is watching us this evening, we are excited to be here and to provide you just a snippet of what is taking place at West Campus High. And we felt what better way to actually share with you some of what is taking place here currently in our building. So, board members, as you can see, this area, it was specifically for our board meetings, and as you can see, is slowly but surely transforming at this time. We are excited to be here and looking forward to welcoming our students here soon. For those of you that are familiar with the blueprint of the central office over at Ray Ellison, this used to be the conference executive room for our Board of Trustees. So that as you can see, we continue to tear down and modify what this is going to look like. One of my favorite spaces, the West Campus Cafe, as you can see, it is being transformed as well to represent the energy of our students. We're excited. We will have bistro tables in place, cafeteria style pickup. We are now downstairs, and this is what we will welcome our student athletes into their locker room spaces. As you recall, this used to be part of the dance studio for Shepherd students as well, so we're excited to welcome that 9th grade cohort into our locker room space as student athletes. We want to welcome you into our West Campus High School gymnasium. As you can tell, if you've been here in the past, if you celebrated any type of competition here in our gym, we're excited to bring it back as well. All our dimensions are set for our competition floor here for basketball, for volleyball, and we continue to make those specific changes to our gymnasium. To our West Campus High School alumni, student athletes, we're looking forward to having some of your responses to ensure that we're making it the very best environment as we welcome many of our student athletes, many of our parents and community to come watch our games here in the near future.
Hello, incoming freshmen and returning sophomores to West Campus High School. My name is Elizabeth Martinez, the principal at Hutchins Elementary, and I'm a South San High School graduate from the class of 1989. I'm excited for your upcoming school year, and I can't wait to see you at West Campus. Go Cougars!
Hello Cougars, this is Andy Guevara, the voice of the South San Independent School District, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome back all the sophomores, the Cougar class of 2023. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome all the incoming freshmen. You will now be part of the rich West Campus High School tradition. Remember kids, South San Bobcats, West Campus Cougars. 2 schools, 1 family. Pause up and go Cougs.
Hello Cougars, my name is Anthony McMorris, a West Campus alumni, part of the grade class of 2008. I want to take this time to welcome in our freshman class for the school year and also welcome back our sophomores. We're happy to have you guys part of the West Campus family. Look forward to an amazing school year. We're excited about you guys continuing the great tradition of West Campus High School. Keep working hard and go Cougs go.
I want to say hello to the incoming freshman and returning sophomore class. My name is Tony Rosenbaum, and I graduated from West Campus in 1986, and glad to hear the school open back up. As a proud Cougar alumni, some of the greatest things about West Campus is the fact that I learned a lot and created a lot of friendships that thrive to this day, 34 years later. As you see, I'm wearing a West Campus shirt that I got a few years ago at a Cougar alumni softball tournament. I look forward to seeing the class of 2023 and 2024 at upcoming West Campus gatherings. With that, welcome back to school. Learn as much as you can and have fun doing it. Go Cougs.
We want to thank our West Campus alumni, our South San High School alumni for providing some words of encouragement to our incoming freshman class and our returning sophomores. We want to ensure that we continue successes and that we continue working together. And just remember, we are family, and that is important to our South San Independent School District. Somos familia. Thank you. President Rodriguez, members of the board, Superintendent Puig, community, staff, there you have it. Our update on West Campus High School and our transformation for the new school year 2020-2021. Stay tuned for the next sneak peek coming soon.
Well, I was worried about it just playing. We thought we were doing about 3 minutes, but first and foremost, Mr. Rosenbaum, Ms. Martinez, Mr. Guevara, Mr. McMorris, every single alumni that we were able to reach out to, we had more. We're ready and willing to do this. The important message behind is truly we are family, and we want to ensure that we have the best, the very best for all the students that we are welcoming into our West Campus High School this coming school year. With that, I will transition over to Superintendent Puig and entertain any questions, sir.
Well, just to comment, Mrs. Sendejo, what an outstanding, spectacular presentation, capped off with an inspiring video. Thank you for taking care of business for the children and broader community and just sending that collective message of unity. Just hats off to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Quick. Certainly, thank you, Ms. Sendejo. I'm trying not to get too emotional here. I think everyone knows how passionate I am about not only West Campus High School, but Southside High School and our district as a whole. So I'll afford my colleagues here to ask some questions regarding any of the presentation at this time. Ms. Alderete?
I'm the crybaby. Estoy chichi. I have to second what Gilbert's saying, and that how much the kids mean to us, right? To us. To see that presentation, not just for West Campus, but for all the schools that we reopened. I was a part, not on the board, but a part of a community effort when they closed these to try and keep them open and then fought to reopen. And then for the board to turn around and do it was like, oh my gosh, my shoulders just felt great. But we know what happened with West Campus, and now what's happening now. Thank you, Mrs. Sendejo, because I think Mr. Rodriguez has told you a couple of times that the ball didn't start moving until you started pushing and kicking it. And I cry because I know the heart of this community. I've been doing this for 16 years over here. And this is huge. This is huge. It's very sentimental. And I'm excited. I'm super, super excited. I cried through the whole thing. But thank you so, so much for all the efforts, everybody who put their all into it, and even the ones who didn't. I want to thank them too, because it made us push harder. So blessings to everybody who's had their hands in this and who tried to put their hands on top of this and stop it. It's made it even greater than we could expect, and we're just going to keep moving forward. And blessings. Thank you so much, Ms. Sendejo. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Ms. Prado, did you have some comments or questions?
Yeah, I just have a question for Dr. Puig on the last slide. Dr. Puig, on the encumbrances that are listed there, we used to get Ms. Sendejo used to provide us the expenditure and encumbrances reports monthly. Are these encumbrances already in the last report?
You're on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mrs. Prado, for the question. Let me verify that and circle back to you this evening on that one.
And can you tell me one last question? Where will this money for these encumbrances come from? From the budget or from the fund balance?
Well, anything that's purchased in this year, these last couple of months, will naturally come from this year and the available funds there. But anything after, moving forward with September 1, as we build the budget, we will build those expenditures into the budget this year for 9/1.
So the funding for these projects is coming out of this year's budget?
Well, if it lands in this year's budget, and there's probably going to be a split based on when those funds are going to be, when those projects get complete and when we need to close up those expenditures. So they're going to overlap. Put it to you that way. They're going to overlap. And so as we prepare for the 2021 budget, we are going to be certain that we provide the line items for those projects. And if we need to come back to the board in these last couple of months here to button up a few of those expenditures that are going to land this year, we'll certainly do that.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Puig.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. Any other board members had questions or comments regarding this item? Well, I just want to say thank you very much for your hard work, Ms. Sendejo, and team, everyone that's been involved. It really touched my heart to have my fellow Bobcat alumni speak in support of our initiative here. I don't have the words to thank them. Just the continued support is what's going to drive us forward, and I just want to ensure that everyone understands that, thank you, Dr. Puig, for availing the staff, and Ms. Sendejo and Ms. Cardenas, certainly with her leadership and answering questions and inquiries that I had, and Ms. Alderete as well, being that she represents the West Campus High School area as well in her district. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I know there's a lot of work to be done, but certainly let's recognize the hard work that's taken place to this point, because again, a lot of things had to transpire, like Ms. Alderete referenced, for us to get to this point, and it's only made us stronger, and it's the resolve has just gotten bigger. We're gonna continue to pursue this diligently, responsibly, but relentlessly. And thank you so much for the hard work. I just had one question for Ms. Sendejo. On the staffing slide, I did not see the band. Do we have a band director?
Yes, sir. Mr. Rodriguez, we've already made that recommendation, and there was one final note that I was going to add there. Alongside with just the background, we'd like to thank Mr. Carlos Rodriguez from the Communications Department, because he worked his magic just to kind of complete the video and make all the changes accordingly, and working with me patiently. So yes, sir, that recommendation has been made.
Thank you, Ms. Sendejo. And my final comment would be that, the initiative at West Campus High School, being that this is the item we're discussing, this is an initiative that we are driving forward that's going to benefit our district as a whole. And certainly with all the leadership that's manifested itself here with this particular initiative, understands that, we're creating an opportunity not only for our district, but opportunities for, potential students in the city and in the county with our P-TECH initiative here, and we continue to drive that forward so we can have it be successful. So it's not just about reopening West Campus High School, it's about investing in ourselves and investing in our school district and presenting more choice, because our competitors certainly are, right? And we're here to compete. So thank you very much for that, Ms. Sendejo. Thank you very much, Dr. Puig, for that tremendous presentation. So thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is the oral report on the parent-teacher back-to-school survey results. Dr. Puig?
Chairman Rodriguez, did I miss the opportunity to provide the update on the enrollment and registration counts?
Mr. Rodriguez, you're muted.
I believe Ms. Sendejo incorporated that into her slides, but if you want to give a brief rundown on district-wide enrollment, we can certainly do that relative to that item.
I apologize, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. I did fall off the call momentarily, so if that was provided again, my apologies. No, I'm prepared to move forward. I apologize.
Okay. Yes, sir. So the update, well, here we are here, right? Item number 4 is the update on the 2020-21 campus new enrollment and returning registration counts. I'm sorry, I skipped over that. You were right.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, this is an exciting opportunity to continue the momentum that Mrs. Sendejo was projecting and celebrating and inspiring. So, Ms. Sendejo, if you'll continue the momentum, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Superintendent Puig, President Rodriguez, members of the board. We'd like to share an update on our Save Your Seat campaign that has been taking place. So you have seen numerous reports week in and week out, and a very great comparison from 1 month to the next. And the original, please note that the original PowerPoint that was presented to you and uploaded into our board book was as of last Thursday, July 16th. We have since shifted that to July 22nd to ensure that we have the most current numbers this evening for you. Ms. Michelle Martinez has uploaded a final report, very similar to what you have. However, it does reflect today's numbers as well. Actually, not 100% because I know we had a little more enroll, but we'll work with that. Please know that the returning student registration and everything that notes today is as of July 22nd. Our current and recent progress is at 5,800 students have registered for this coming year. It places at about 73%. If you notice that our last report and the uploaded report had a percentage of 70. So we are definitely working together, having many of meetings throughout the week with our campus principals and all the teams that are working in every department. Some of our largest gains and celebrations are Athens Elementary and our Price Elementary are nearing that 100%. And I know that that is currently where they are working closely, Mr. Carranza and Ms. Castillo. Of course, one of our larger elementary campuses, Benavides, is at about 88%, and we are lacking possibly about 30 some odd students to complete that enrollment. Today, we had a very productive meeting with all our elementary principals, yesterday with our middle school principals, and this morning as well with our high school principals, and shared. They get to see this as well. They're calling to find out where they are as far as numbers. They're in tune with Skyward on a daily basis. An additional report that was provided to every one of that will be provided to every one of our campuses is any records request that is taking place currently from other districts seeking the potential enrollment of students. So we are not going to stop on just what we know, but really look and leverage reports that we have. Every principal will receive these and where they are coming from with these records requests. Ultimately, we want to ensure that every one of our principals has that opportunity to have that conversation with every family and to ensure that we can do the very best possible to ensure that they can remain with us for this coming school year. Mr. Longman there, thank you. Our Head Start registration continues to grow. We are currently at about 262 students with our new student registration and our second year Head Start registration. Recently met with our director, Ms. Carmona Mercado, and again, we continue to advertise, ensure that we are blasting the messages of Head Start and the registration that is currently taking place. What you see here is just, again, an ongoing gain of our registration. When we look back at May 28th, we were at about 53%. Fast forward to July 21st, 73%, and we do anticipate to grow that here in the next week and a half. Unfortunately, we've had some difficulty with the situation in our pandemic and COVID-19. We had to limit some of the drive-through and just the ongoing incoming traffic into our buildings. We have since been much more creative, and next week you will see quite a bit of activity with our drive-through registration coming on a daily basis. I know that we have 3 dates scheduled for high school, as I know that we're working very closely to reduce that number as soon as possible. So just snippets there of progress for each campus. We're continuously meeting with them. We are working closely with the task force. And then of course, we're offering every potential or possible technology device to ensure that our families have what they need, what choice they're making here in the near future. As we know, we have a few weeks of virtual learning before we transition into a face-to-face and welcome our students into our buildings. So next steps here, returning our students, we are going to continue enrolling. We will be having and hosting some virtual registration as well. And we'd like for you to mark your calendar, and I'm sure it's coming to you all here soon. August the 8th will be a district event to welcome and kick off the school year. A few days later, on August 12th, from 9 to 12, we are going to be ensuring again that we have every technology device available for our students, along with school supplies. As long as our students are registered with us, we want to ensure that they have the supplies that they need to start the school year virtually. Goals for the beginning of this school year, of course, 100% is what we are striving for. All our guardians choosing their instructional path. We know that we are launching soon. Superintendent Puig has provided multiple updates, and we'll continue to do that. And of course, increase our district-wide enrollment. My apologies, I did not highlight that, but you have seen and observed that as well throughout the weeks of receiving these reports. Mr. Lolliman, just lastly, I'd like to make a note. On Monday of this past week, we did launch our enrollment countdown. Mr. Lolliman, can you go to our website and select that page and pause it? I believe it's on the stroller on the. There you go. Thank you, sir. Well, here is our enrollment countdown. This is again being highlighted. Our communications department continues along with our technology department to update this, and it allows for us to really share with our families, with our community, as we continue pushing forward to increase the percentage there and bring that enrollment re-enrollment countdown down. We are currently, as a district, at 73%. We hope that by tomorrow evening, when Dr. Puig sends out his update and report to our board of trustees, that we can get that over to that 74, 75. I am very hopeful with that as we continue to work closely. Please know that this definitely has been, and many of you have echoed this, is the importance of ensuring that our students are safe, that our students have what they need to be prepared, that the technology devices. It has certainly been a team effort, and the ownership. And I just really want to make note, because I've used this a couple of times in our meetings, and just thinking back last year at this time, we had not started registering for the new academic school year. So what a difference for us to be in this place and to have our administrators working together and providing one another the support, because they are hosting events and they want other principals to join to share out any information possible. So again, we are truly setting that path of coming together and working. And I'm going to use Dr. Puig's seizing our future as we continue to work closely alongside his vision of seizing the future for our students and of course our staff in the best outcomes there. At this time, this concludes our presentation and update for enrollment. Superintendent Puig.
Thank you, Mrs. Sendejo. I just, again, want to compliment the drive and the high expectations of really driving the enrollment unlike ever before. This has never been done in South San. And so thank you for taking the initiative and collaborating and bringing folks on board to really understand the importance of this and really just elevating the opportunity folks have to be a part of South San. This is a tremendous drive. We're going to continue to move forward. And again, I just appreciate your servant leadership on this. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Puig. Definitely thank you, Ms. Sendejo, for that presentation. Board members, are there any questions regarding Ms. Sendejo's presentation? Ms. Alderete?
I just have two. It's very simple. So where do we, I actually bumped into a child yesterday. Where do we direct them? The parents not too keen on social media and technology, and they're having a hard time. So when I get that question, where do I direct them? Because they said they've called, but they're not getting an answer. So where do they go from there?
Dr. Puig, would you like for me to answer that?
Ms. Sendejo, please jump in. Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Alderete, thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time to support our families. A couple of options that we have, I would say, in just my thought, you have one very special direct line, and that's our superintendent. If that needs to happen, because we do not need a family or a parent, and if we can get there, we know that we'll get it. That can definitely be one of our options. Of course, our website, we are currently working very closely with all our websites, and under the parent link is where you will find the registration process to link in. What we have done, Mrs. Collier, as we transitioned, has shared out multiple numbers out there that are servicing our students, our parents throughout the day. We have certain staff that are manning those phones on an ongoing basis. Again, if we have a number that may not work for them, I mean, there are multiple. We have released some additional numbers there. I know Mrs. Collier is on the line, and she is spearheading that major piece on the communication currently as our campuses are closed.
Okay. And so, Dr. Puig, do I shoot that over to you, or do that? Yeah, so you can give it to Jenny.
Mrs. Alderete, yes, we've had a few of the issues before. And again, when it comes to me, I am quick to execute and make sure that it happens promptly. And again, it just to facilitate the turnaround, the customer service, again, and not to take away anything from what our campus leaders are doing and some of our other district leaders are doing, but I know some of the other trustees have had issues right now. And so I don't mind you sending that directly to me, and let me help push that where it needs to go ASAP.
Okay, I will definitely send you the number so you can talk to the parent.
And Dr. Puig, if I might add something.
Please, yes, ma'am.
So also, Ms. Alderete, you can I get a lot of questions on Facebook, and I give them direct contact to the registration personnel. Also, shortly here, we've just created, because we realized that there may be some not getting through. So we have created a registration at South San ISD, and I'll be promoting that here in the next coming days, as well as we have some events planned where I'll be marketing like 4 numbers, and we're going to give like times, between 8 and 2. Call. We will walk you through this process. Call or email us. So you'll be seeing us promote that as well. But also, anytime anyone contacts us on our Facebook as well, or emails us, I get their phone numbers and I hand it straight over to Dr. Carrillo.
the only thing I think mom doesn't do social media, so that's where the gap is. And then are we emailing the students? Because I think that would be really great. Those of them, we have a lot of students with technology. And I don't know if we're already doing that, but just sending out the email with the information on registration, I think that would be neat if it's not being done already.
We can add that as well. And we also text. I text all the parents as well for those that don't have internet. So they're getting text as well, and the link is on their phone along with the information.
Okay. Okay. Those are just my questions. I'll shoot it straight to you, Dr. Puig. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Aldete. And I know this sounds unusual, but it's all hands on deck right now. And I am really working and serving with everyone to make sure that, we are shoulder to shoulder, and I'm right there in the middle of it, because this is so important for the trustees and the team and the broader community that we really champion the enrollment process and the responsiveness that's essential for us to get to that 100% bar. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Aldete. Any other board members have comments or questions regarding the enrollment? I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sendejo, for continuing to drive this. Certainly, like you've stated, we weren't doing this a year ago, so we're ahead of the game. And I think what's going to help us, and I think what's moved the needle a little bit, is that we're starting to communicate what our plans are, right? We've communicated that we're 100% virtual. We've communicated that if you need, I think I've seen schedules for Chromebook pickups, right? So I think as the parents and the community gets clarity on what South San ISD's approach is going to be and what we're committed to in delivering those services this academic year, now they'll start to feel more comfortable, and you will see that needle start to move a little bit more. So I think that we continue to do that. That's certainly going to help us. So if we can continue to communicate, hey, this is how we're going to do it this school year. It's going to be safe. We're going to be accommodating, make parents feel comfortable, and that's going to certainly move the needle as well. So, so thank you very much for that. I know I, as a parent, when I saw Dr. Puig's message and I saw that communication start coming out, it was like, okay. I know what we're doing. I feel a little bit better. Let's move forward. So thank you for that. And thank you, board members. The next item on the agenda is, now we're at number 5, right? Which is the oral reports on parent-teacher back to school survey results. Dr. Puig.
Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. And to extend President Rodriguez's point, we are emphasizing over communication, and really over communicating is what we need to do at this point in this challenge that we're all experiencing. And we need to think inwardly, are we over communicating so parents have a sense of how to register? Parents have a sense of, where do I get my device with, again, clarity, as President Rodriguez said, and where do I need to go for help? We need to really over communicate those things at every turn. That being said, part of that is collecting data and responding to that data with good decisions, including good decisions about the potential digital divide. What do the data say about that? And so at this time, I'm honored to invite Mrs. Collier to share the parent survey data, the teacher data, and I will likely add Mrs. Sedillon to this conversation at the end to talk some of the specifics around available digital devices in response to these data. So with that, Mrs. Collier, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Puig, President Rodriguez, board members. So I first off want to start to say that all of y'all were very in touch with the community and our teachers. So although I'm excited to share these responses with you, you will find no surprises here. Now we just have it on paper, what you already knew. So first off, I'm excited to say that we had roughly 4,700 responses. We really pushed this. As a matter of fact, I had parents emailing me or messages on Facebook, where's that survey? I want to fill that survey out. Same with teachers. So, and the feedback that I got was that they appreciated that we were reaching out and that we wanted to know and we wanted their voices heard. So 4,700 responses. And the data shows significant concerns from our parent population in terms of returning their child or children to school. So looking at the summary below, you can see here 64.4% are choosing or had wanted to keep their kids home for distance learning. Only 19.8% wanted in-person learning. And you can see 13.5 were undecided. So you guys called it right. Our parents were thinking about safety and they were worried. Could you please go to the next slide, Scott? Now, the primary reasons parents planned to opt out of in-person instruction was due to the dissatisfaction of TEA guidelines. 45% of our parents are not satisfied. Another 20% are waiting for a vaccine. So there's still a lot of uncertainty out there. And again, they're very appreciative that we were pushing, and that we are going virtual for the first few weeks. Next slide. So taking a look at internet access, we've been discussing that. The good news is, I can barely see those numbers, I'm getting old. 93.4% of our parents, of our families have internet access. Only 6.6% are having some issues, and I will let you know that I talked to Mr. Lalaman, and that is already being addressed. We are in the process of awarding another 500 hotspots to address that. So please know that we are working on 100% internet access for our families. And just so you can get an idea of everyone that participated in this survey, we had parents from middle school, high school, but the majority of the responses were from elementary school parents. And that is our parent survey. And as I mentioned to you, once Dr. Puig mentioned that we were going virtual, if you haven't read our Facebook comments, the majority of parents were very, very appreciative and thankful during these times that we are listening to them and we are working for them and we are answering their calls for help. Scott, can you please move on to the teacher survey? We had roughly 900 responses. We received 900 responses. So the data shows significant concerns from our teachers in terms of returning to school for face-to-face instruction. Most teachers prefer distance learning instruction. And take a look at this. Only 8.7% wanted to provide face-to-face instruction. 30%, and they even added some comments on that. They were willing to do whatever we wanted, but they had some concerns. But the majority of our teachers were pushing and hoping for virtual instruction. Next slide. Now, the primary reasons that teachers plan to opt out of in-person instruction were due to worries about the spread of COVID-19 during face-to-face teaching. That's about 30%. Another roughly 30% prefer distance learning because they are either a caregiver of a high-risk person or they have a documented medical condition. And there's a lot of colors there, but I can tell you almost everyone, they were allowed to pick several reasons. Almost everyone there was a high percentage of people that they were worried about the spread. That was the whole thing. No matter what we did, they were worried about the spread. Taking a look at if you can scroll down just a tad, taking a look at the teachers. As you can see, we had a little bit from almost every school participate in this survey, but the majority of teachers that we spoke to were from South San High School. Next slide. Should be one more. Thank you, Scott. Okay, so I worked with Dr. Puig and some of our administration. We really wanted to hear our teachers before this survey went out, and many of them were very candid. We didn't publicize it because we wanted them to feel safe, and we wanted them to hear what they really heard. But we also gave them a chance on the survey to give us some feedback. So I'm going to go read to you some of the ones that I picked out from the survey. Quote, "I am ready to go back to work. I need the students as much as they need me, but I have to admit, I'm worried. I believe it would be more traumatizing to have to close campus again before the semester is over than if we wait a little longer. My suggestion is to begin virtually for a while longer. There were 6 more deaths today. This doesn't mean anything until it hits your household. If we begin the year virtually, actions need to begin soon. Otherwise, our new 6th graders, I'm a middle school teacher, would be behind." Another quote, "While I feel that I'm willing to work either way at this moment, if I'm honest, that could change depending on how our community is doing come August. The numbers today increased by 954 cases. That is terrifying. I could be a silent carrier and infect one of my students. If that were to happen and they were to die, I would never forgive myself. I don't know if that is a rational response, but that is where my head is right now. We really don't know how this will affect our students at this point, and I am truly scared for their safety. I'm also scared to get infected and bring it home to my own children. I know you don't have all the answers either, and I'm sorry that you have to make these choices for our school district. I wish I could be of more help. I trust that as long as you keep the focus on our community's well-being, you will make the right choice. Mr. Longman, can you scroll down for one more? Thank you. There are many concerns and reservations I have about returning face-to-face instruction. In my personal opinion, the risk of returning to face-to-face instruction far outweigh the benefits. As someone who lives with a high-risk individual, I'm concerned about bringing home this virus to them. I believe distance learning would be the safest option for all parties involved. With enough advance notice about how I will be teaching this school year, I would be able to attend some professional development and training regarding online programs and distance learning resources. That was the feedback before we announced that we were going virtual. And since then, I can tell you, we've had a number of emails of people thanking you guys for making the right choice. That is the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
If I may, President Rodriguez?
Yes, please, Dr. Puig.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Collier, I know also that you're working closely with Mrs. Sedvion and Mr. Lalaman to really address the potential pockets of the digital divide. And I'd like for Mrs. Sedvion to expound on some specifics along with Mr. Lalaman on how we're going to ensure that those students are going to get what they need, and including any potential infrastructure issues. We talked about this earlier in the week, and we had some trustees weigh in on this too. So I think it's important that we have that conversation added on to this presentation. So with that, Mrs. Sedvion, are you on the call? Are you there?
Yes, sir. Good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the board, Dr. Puig, staff and community members. We have been working diligently, and I first have to start by giving kudos to Scott Lalaman. Whenever, I ask him for data or a report, or, he gets it done way before the deadline. Let's just put it that way. But we have received, or we have been looking at our devices, and talks have been for our pre-K through second grade students that we want to assert that they can manipulate the device well. So we are ordering Chromebooks that have a touchscreen. However, right now, what we will be deploying to our students, starting off with our pre-K and K students, are iPads. And we have several iPads in the district. What I did find out as I researched it further and spoke to Mr. Lalaman was that some of them are outdated and are more than 5 years old. So we're looking at devices that are 3 years old or younger or newer, so that we can ensure that they will be able to be a viable device, and that it will support all the applications and programs that we roll out to our students. So right now we're still in the middle of all of that, but just to give you a number, with our iPads in the district, there are 3,502. With our Chromebooks, this is including elementary, middle, and high school, there are 9,244. And also we're looking at our devices to make sure they're all functioning correctly. So right now, that's what we're looking at. And also communicating with principals, because we may have an abundance of devices at one campus. So we need to spread the wealth and dole those out to the campuses that need additional devices for now, because we were tasked with ensuring that all our students had the devices they needed in their hands by August 12th. And, that is the only way we can have a quality instructional program, especially if we're going virtually. So with that being said, we also talked about our MiFi devices hotspots. And we do have 300 in the district right now, currently. There are 600 at the high school, approximately 600 at the high school. And then, of course, as Mrs. Collier mentioned, we are waiting on TEA and looking to purchase, in a bundle purchase for the state, an additional 500 hotspots. So in speaking to Mr. Lolliman, we also, threw around some ideas, and he has really good ideas as well. We were talking about the deployment of these hotspots per family. The hotspots can sustain multiple devices. They have a large memory. And so that way we can ascertain that all the families that need internet access actually get the internet access. Mr. Lolliman did inform me that we would know for sure what was going on with TEA and that purchase by July 27th. And he also has a backup plan with Sprint, where with Sprint, we have a turnaround of 2 to 3 weeks if we need additional hotspots, so we can purchase through Sprint as well. And I want to ask Mr. Lolliman if he wants to jump in and add to what I've delineated thus far. Are you there, Scott?
Yes, I am. My computer picked like the most inopportune time to freeze up today, right? And it's always the tech guy. So the only other thing I want to add is that there's also some exciting things going on with the city of San Antonio. It's not going to impact us for this school year, but we're hopeful that by the end of the school year, that we'll see some impact from what they're doing. I have to give huge kudos to not only City Council, but the Office of Innovation with the City of San Antonio. They have been working really hard trying to help school districts bridge the digital divide. City has identified what they're calling top 50 neighborhoods in the city, and those neighborhoods are based on income, socioeconomic status, race, so on and so forth. We have 2 of those neighborhoods in our district, and City Council has committed $25 million to helping connect students that are in those top 50 neighborhoods back into their school districts. And so right now they are doing a proof of concept with San Antonio ISD and a couple of schools in Edgewood in the Lanier High School area, where they're connecting students with they're like hotspots, but they connect to a proprietary cellular tower that then connects back into the school district's infrastructure. And so they're doing the proof of concept now, and they have a timeline of the end of mid to end of 2020 to roll that out to the top 50 neighborhoods, provided this proof of concept is a success. So we're really excited about that. Again, it doesn't really help us much this year, but it's something that I think the city has seen a need on and has really jumped on quickly. The decisions on that are coming fast and furious. And so, I really want to thank the city of San Antonio and the Office of Innovation and their IT department on that, and because they have really put in a lot of legwork into that.
And just on a final note, when it comes to teacher devices, I was speaking to Mrs. De Leon and Mrs. Orozco, and they indicated that the only thing that they need to evaluate a little further are the document cameras. And I haven't even gotten with Scott on that because they're going to go ahead and touch base with the principals. So we're going to look at also ensuring that our teachers have everything they need to roll out that virtual instruction. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Certainly, thank you for that presentation, Ms. Cedillon. Dr. Puig, did you want to chime in before the trustees an opportunity to ask questions?
Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez. Absolutely. I just want to make the observation of the depth of collaboration that's happening right now between all of the members across every department to ensure a successful remote launch. And I mean a wildly successful remote launch. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of folks in the room that are action oriented, like Mr. Lolliman, Mrs. Edbion, Mrs. Collier, Ms. Sendejo. Mrs. Orozco, Mrs. De Leon, Dr. Carrillo. There's a lot of folks involved in ensuring that this remote environment is wildly successful. And so I just again want to thank the team for their servant leadership and commitment to making sure this is successful for our children. It's not enough to provide the device. We have to make sure that there's a vision for that e-learning that is reflective of our commitment to a rigorous opportunity for kids to continue to collaborate virtually and learn across various boundaries. So I just want to make that point to everyone. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Puig. Ms. Alderete, I believe you were first.
Yes, Ms. Collier, first I'd like to thank you for dissecting this survey. And I have to say this is probably one of the most successful surveys we've had with the most participation. And I think what's huge in this is that the community feels involved and our educators feel involved. And that's huge for me. To be able to, just as we protect our children, protect our educators, because a lot of times we think, we forget, right? And we're so focused on the kids that the people in the trenches who are building our children, teaching our children, and creating those leaders of the future kind of get pushed to the side and we didn't hear them. But this time around, their voices were heard. And thank you, thank you, thank you. This means a lot to me because I went through this virus. I brought it home. I passed it to my children and I watched them suffer. I know the data on it, about 10 and under and 10 and over. More children are getting it. We just saw a case where the mother died and a day later, the father died. My church, 6 people are dead. This is a serious, serious issue. And I'm so grateful that you heard our educators and you heard our community. And I thank everybody on this feed, because I see we have a lot of people watching, for participating, and my colleagues for agreeing upon this. A lot of times others will put numbers before people, and this board, I have to say, has not done that. I'm super proud to serve with the people that I serve with, and thank you all for all the hard work. And educators that are watching, I see the comments. I want you to know that we will always push for our educators and our children. You guys are what make this district, all the way down to our custodians, our anybody that works for our district. You guys make it run. You're those wheels, not us. So thank you for everything that everybody does, and let's keep moving forward. And I do want to say that when we come to the decision time after this is done, right, when we get to that point, if we're still climbing the way we do, we really need to make sure that we're doing what's right and safe. If you can't tell me 100%, then I don't want it. I'm not going to go for it. So I'm thankful for everything that y'all have done, and thank you for including our staff this time, and to see the numbers, to see them participate it's a good feeling. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Alderete. Any other board members have comments or questions regarding this presentation? I certainly want to take a minute here to thank Dr. Puig for allowing our educators to have a voice. Thank you, Ms. Collier, for pushing this forward and ensuring maximum participation, right? Because if we don't ask the question, then we don't know the answer. And yes, I do read the responses on Facebook. I'm reading the comments here during our meeting, and the administration, the teachers, who is the most valuable resource in the classroom. Without the teacher, what's getting done? Not a whole lot. So it's essential that we listen to them, make them feel comfortable, provide them with the resources, not only from a technology perspective, but the PPE that's required, the things that they need to keep their classrooms clean. All of that comes into play. Just like we need students happy and healthy, ready to learn, we need teachers happy and healthy, ready to be productive. And thank you very much to Echo Ms. Alderete for affording them a voice to voice their concerns. And certainly the board, I want to thank my colleagues for being supportive to that extent. And I know Mr. Rasco is an educator, and we've discussed many a times about the importance of making sure that we listen to educators and not just react, but to look at the data, look at the numbers, and make what's coming out to be just the most common sense, right, decision. That, hey, the rates are high, it's not looking good. Let's not jeopardize anyone else. Certainly not anyone in our immediate family here at Southside ISD. I want to thank Mr. Lonneman for his efforts. I know firsthand all the energy and time that takes. But I also want to commend him and his staff. We did a heck of a job in the spring. I'll tell you that. The way we were able to get that off the ground and get as many students as we could get connected. Yes, there were some issues, but we applied those lessons learned, and it looks like we're on a path to being successful with our virtual environment here. So I want to thank Mr. Lonneman for he and his staff is tremendous effort. I believe me, I know he's awake at night when a lot of us are sleeping, trying to figure out how he's going to get this going and keep it going as we turn the days on the calendar here. So thank you, Mr. Lonneman, and your team for their commitment to making sure that this is successful. That was all I had. There's another item on the agenda here that's going to further, the board is further going to, voice their support for the safety of our students and staff. So thank you very much for that, Dr. Puig. Certainly thank you very much, Ms. Collier. And thank you for the educators and community members for participating in that survey. We hear you loud and clear. So thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the overview of the November 3rd, 2020 School Board District Trustee Election Procedures. Dr. Puig.
Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. In preparation for the upcoming November election, we have a splendid opportunity to grow and to learn and to discuss the upcoming procedures so that we are all adequately prepared in advance of the deadlines. And to help us tonight through that, we have the pleasure of having the Bexar County Elections Administrator, Miss Jackie Callanan, tonight with us to answer questions and help facilitate that discussion. And then also Mr. O'Hanlon's available to shed some light on some education, election practices from the past. And so at this time, I'm honored to introduce Mrs. Jackie. Miss Jackie, are you on the meeting with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. The floor is yours.
There we go. Well, thank you. And I really appreciate it. And it's wonderful to even meet you just like this, Dr. P. We appreciate it. And for the board, thank you. We need to take just a few minutes to talk about, and I've been listening to everything you're going through as far as this COVID, and it is going to impact your election. For those of you who are new on the board, I'd like to explain how we do joint elections. When there's a presidential candidate or a governor's candidate on there, we must hold joint elections so that everyone that steps into the voting booth has the opportunity to vote on every race that they are eligible for. So whether it's for the president all the way through constable on the county, we have, again, your election. We know that the city of San Antonio will be on with an item. We have started negotiations with VIA for them to put an item on. And our normal joint election has about 18 to 20 entities joining the ballot. But your citizens, your constituents, would basically only vote for what we had, president to constable, and then your school district in a normal year. We all know this is not a normal year. So we had 23 entities that were scheduled to have a May 2nd election. And the governor postponed that election until November. So this is going to be a very long ballot because now I see Miss Connie there. We have the ACCD election that should have been held in May will now be in November. We also have the Edwards Aquifer on there. We can go down the list, but where normally your constituents would vote for the county ballot and then your own South San issues, and then they'd be done. But now they'll have City of San Antonio issues, they'll have VIA, they'll have ACCD if that district is in there. They're going to have the Edwards Aquifer, and the list just goes on. And as you can see, Dr. P has the joint agreement to start the election process. All of the entities say, I'm going to have an election. I think I'm going to have an election. And we say, welcome to the table. And we do everything on a pro rata share when we hold an election. So this joint agreement says, yes, we have called an election. We are going to have an election scheduled for November 3rd. And you all will have, I think, maybe 4 or 5, because you have an unexpired term, 4 districts up. And the pro rata share is based on the number of precincts in each one of those districts. So we go into this, and what happens if one of your districts only has 1 candidate? Well, you get to cancel that election. And so then we pull those precincts back out, and it becomes cost effective for you. Your cost goes down. If you have another district, it goes down. Now, I will tell you that this November ballot, I even hate to say the words, we're closing on $2 million for this election. We are very proud that we just came off the July 14th election where everyone felt safe. We did the PPEs. But again, I just need to bring to your attention these numerous, you can see them all listed on the joint agreement. So what this does is when you sign this, it says, this gets me a seat at the table. So after August 17th, that's the filing deadline for your candidates, August 17th. So when everybody gets back up on the 18th and 19th, they start sending in, well, we didn't have anybody file, so we're going to cancel that one. Or yes, we're in. And so at that point, the joint election agreement has a clause in there that says if you do not hold your election, there's no harm, no foul, and no money transfers hands. After we know, I refer to it as the players that are with us, then we send out executed contracts with the cost estimate. And so again, we're roughly saying this election will be about $2 million. And if all of your districts stay in, your cost will be somewhere around 8,000, which is a deal when you say 2 million, and we could hold your election for somewhere around 8,000. So thumbs up on that. That's a good deal. No, but again, it's a 2-step process so that we do that again, so that we can do our planning purposes. And I will say in a normal year, which this is not, normally when we sit down, the entities that are holding the election, because these are important elections, your election is just as important as any other one on that ballot. And we try and place an early voting site in your district for your people. And we want your poll sites to be used. But again, it's going to be November. We have just heard, and thankfully so, that Northside has put one of their teacher in service days on to November the 3rd, so that there will be no students in class in the schools. And we appreciate that, because when it was time to hold the July 14th election, we normally use 67 schools in Northside, and they refused us the use of 40 of them. So we automatically lost 40 poll sites. And, you know, it was necessary. Nobody pushed on it. It was understandable. So you'll see as we work our way through this, normally we have, and I know Ms. Connie can say, we have large, friendly, we call them entity meetings, where we bring all of the superintendents, the mayors, the managers into one room, and we all make decisions. We will be doing something similar to what you've been doing tonight. So it'll be virtual once we know who's left standing. So it's a wonderful process. We've been doing it for a number of years. we do include you in the decisions. The tight turnaround will be, and what we ask is as candidates file, you send those into us so that we can start building the ballot. Because August 17th, that's that filing deadline. And boy, we had the wind knocked out of us today when we were on a conference call with the governor, because he's contemplating adding another full week to early voting. So right now we have it for 2 weeks, and it should start October 19th. And he's looking at putting it back another week, just like he did for the July election, to allow more people to get through with social distancing and all of that. But he hasn't finalized it. We should hear that within the next week or so. And again, we're holding our breath, because every week of early voting costs approximately $400,000. And of course, that's in for the staff, the judges, those great people that man the polls. And we're just so proud of them. But I'm here to answer questions for you, because I know it's new for a lot of you. And how can I help you? Your wonderful superintendent reached out and said, let's start the process. So here we are.
Dr. Puig, did you, thank you for that, Jackie, that presentation. Dr. Puig, did you want to make some remarks before I open it up for discussion and questions?
Just how much I appreciate Miss Jackie coming in and affording us the opportunity to engage on this process. It is going to be different than any other election cycle in the history. And so it's important that we just take advantage of this opportunity with her expertise in the room and really just ask any question. And Miss Jackie, we had a long conversation, multiple conversations about this opportunity to ask as many questions, just so we can seek clarity on the process in the present and even in the past. So we have a depth of understanding moving forward with these procedures, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Puig. At this time, are there any board members that have questions or inquiries regarding this item? Mr. O'Hanlon, but go ahead.
Board member.
Go ahead, Mr.
I would like to address or have Jackie address two issues. One is relatively new thing is countywide voting. I don't think we've done that before. And two, we're going to have, we may not have election results on election night because of mail-in ballots and what that does. And I want to at least explain that a little bit. So don't get mad at her if y'all don't know on election night what it is, because we may not have counted all the ballots.
Those are wonderful points, Mr. O'Hanlon, wonderful points. In November of last year, November of 2019, was the first time that we used our new voting equipment that was purchased. And that new voting equipment allowed us to move to the vote center model. And it is a fantastic model. What it basically is an extension of early voting. So any voter can vote anywhere on election day. They don't have to worry to get back to their home precinct. And it's increased voting. It has worked wonderfully. And however, as Mr. O'Hanlon was saying, prior to when we did it by precincts, and we knew that if one of your seats had 3 precincts in, the results would say, oh, those 3 precincts are in, here's your results. You can have your party, you can have your celebration, and it's over. However, with vote centers, we have to wait till 100% of all of the sites are in, because you may have ballots out in Universal City. If somebody was out there having dinner, they can come from anywhere in the county. And so that makes it a little bit hard for when we're having our celebrations. But again, we'll see in November, things may still be where we are, and there may not be so many celebrations. They may pull those back in. And as to the by mail, we are so excited about the bimeal. And again, I say that we are as far as the election people. Mr. O'Hanlon spoke to you all as the candidates. And when election night's over, we have all the votes tallied from the vote centers, and we post on the website and send to you. You see your winners, and you see the people who came in second. Well, 2 years ago, we, the elections administrators, petitioned the Texas legislature because for a number of years, I'm not telling any secrets, but we've all seen how the efficiencies of the U.S. Postal Service have gone down. I don't want to, cast aspersions, but for years, we would see the mail delivery the day after the election, and we would have hundreds and hundreds of ballots that arrived at our office the day after the election. And the election code said if they weren't in our office by 7 o'clock election night, we didn't count them. So for years, we were disenfranchising hundreds, if not 1,000 voters. So the legislature heard us, and we were so excited about that. So we are now permitted to count any ballot that's delivered to our office the day after the election. So if there's tight races, as I know you all heard with the congressional 23rd, where there was a 7-vote difference, everybody held their breath. And the day after the election, we got in 476 ballots. So we tallied those. Then we also, Military City, USA, the military have the advantage of a 6-day turnaround. And so we will not send final results to be canvassed until 1 week after the election. We'll be able to tell you the next day, based on our database, that'll say maybe seat 3 has 17 outstanding ballots. They can drill down that much. But again, we know from the activity we have now and what we keep hearing is going to happen in November, we do expect a huge increase in our by mail. So it's going to be, to your point, Mr. O'Hanlon, the race isn't over when the race is over. So November 3rd, hopefully you'll all have nice leads and spreads and everybody can sleep well that night, or it'll be a nail biter and we'll wait until we see what ballots come in.
It may not be to the swift.
But it'll be to the tired. I can tell you that.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. O'Hanlon. 2 very great questions. Thank you, Miss Jackie, for providing those answers, and thank you for availing yourself this evening for the Board of Trustees and this item. In conversations with Dr. Puig and agenda setting, historically, the election order has come to the board for its consideration in the July timeframe, right? Most recently, we had some research regarding a policy update that we had to conduct. So I very quickly had to get up to speed on election orders, right? But not so much so for our newer board members who may or may not know the intricacies of an election or an election order and how that all goes down. So Dr. Puig and I agreed that it would probably be wise and informative, not only for the board members, for he himself being new to the city and the county, to just kind of get a rundown on how things have transpired over the years and how an election is actually conducted. So I'll ask one more time before I ask my questions if there's any other board members that have questions or inquiries. No. So part of my curse, Ms. Jackie, and I think all board members agree, is I tend to be detail oriented, sometimes to a fault, right? And being in the chair as board president, I take it seriously as part of my responsibility to, whenever we bring items to the board for their consideration after our agenda setting, is to be as detailed as possible and provide as much historical data so the Board of Trustees can review that and then see where we were, where we are, and then make the most informed decision possible. And I want to give kudos to Ms. Sandejo in the agenda setting where she started putting historical data on our agenda summary sheet. So
yes.
I'll read every single thing that Dr. Puig sends. I'll read every single thing that the TEA puts out, and I'll formulate some questions on just how things happen. So most of my questions have been answered. There were a couple of items. I think that the high level pending one was that, so whenever the Board of Trustees puts an election order on the agenda for its consideration, and part of that election order states that there is an attachment A versus polling sites. So in talking with Dr. Puig and trying to track down some of these items, again, trying to give the Board of Trustees all the information possible, we just weren't able to track those down. I know that I go back 1 year, 2 years, and kind of look at MOUs and items on the agenda and kind of compare to see how we got to where we are today. And should we do things differently? Do we keep it the same because it's been working? So my number one question is that attachment A that's on the election order, where is that? And how does that get generated? How, and it's specific to the polling sites, right? So I heard you just say that, now that any voter can go to any polling site to vote. Now, does that apply to early voting, or does that just apply to the general election?
It's to both, sir. That's a great question.
Yes,
Early voting is obviously the same. And when the Exhibit A and the Exhibit B that come attached with the orders, that they will come when you get your contract. Once we do an executed contract, Exhibit A and Exhibit B are attached to that. And what we're going to recommend this time, again, because August 17th is coming right around the corner, and that's the deadline for anyone to order an election. So we sort of want in that order, in big block letters, wherever we can put it, subject to change. Because again, if the governor adds days, if something changes, if, for instance, we have had a number of poll sites, both early voting and election day, at the universities, Texas A&M, UTSA, Palo Alto, SAC. Well, if those schools are not in session, if there's no students there, then we won't have those sites. We'll move them off to someplace else. And so that's why we're saying subject to change, because there's just, there's so many moving parts to this with the COVID, and will the schools be back? Will the universities be back? It's a challenge. And so we've already checked, and to cover ourselves legally, if the order says subject to change, then you can just go back and amend it. You don't have to do the whole thing all over again. And
Right.
that's what we're all trying to do, so that we, do this and have it one and done, basically, as we move forward, so that then after the order's done, your next responsibility is to be proofing the ballot. Because once we get the names and we set it all up, then we send you a proof where you sign off that the names are correctly spelled, they're in the correct position, and all of that function. And then game on, away we go.
Definitely.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes, sir.
this year, the exhibit's going to be different now, because used to be the last time we called an election was the polling places that were within our district, because that's the precincts plus any early voting that we had. My recommendation is this year that we simply, in the election order, delegate that responsibility to the county election supervisor to designate those and to publish the list. That way, she's not going to have to go back and check with us or anything of that nature. There will be, if this contagion is still going on, there will be things that go on where schools get infected or something happens where they're even up to the last day, we're moving polling places around, and the county elections administrator, which is running the deal for everybody, for all of these entities, needs to be able to make decisions and get that done without having to check back because the sky's going to be falling. So we need to try and provide as set forth in the contract and have the elections administrator have the most possible flexibility with respect to that, so that we can make decisions on the fly. Because this one's going to be like no other that we've done. And there may be last minute decisions that come down to this. There may be litigation. There may be orders about keeping polling places open. There's all kinds of things that happen that we need to provide because there's only one authority on these joint elections now to have the authority to be able to run the election on these kinds of details.
Right. No. I'll give me 1 second, Ms. Alvarez, and I'll recognize you here in a minute. Thank you. Thank you for that, Ms. O'Hanlon. So no, I entirely understand. I don't envy Miss Jackie's position come November, right? Whatsoever. So, but in this instance, you know, we are charged with the South San ISD election, right? So, I just need you know, I want our board members to be as informed as possible. So I understand the recommendation from Ms. O'Hanlon on the polling sites, and we should consider, given the county elections, that flexibility. And the reason for this, we're all mentioning COVID, right? So I don't want to put our voters in a position where they're having to, where they anticipate a polling site being open and then it's no longer there, and now they're having to go somewhere else. And now here we go, increasing the possibility of them getting affected, right? So I want to make sure that we're protecting the integrity of the election and the integrity of the process. I understand that nothing's been normal, and it's not going to be normal as we move to the end of the year, right? I totally understand that. But to the extent possible, we are charged with making sure, specific to the South San ISD election, that we do everything that we can to maintain that integrity, to maintain that process, and not inconvenience our voters, whether it's early voting, whether it's on election day. So I guess my final question is, when that election order, so when the board considers the election order and that attachment A, you know, is gonna come afterwards, or are we? What is it that the board is going to actually consider? Because going back and looking at the historical election orders, there's been no attachment A in board book that or board members could reference, right? So when would that be available, and how do board members compare one to the other?
Historically, the exhibit has been after the election was called and it was negotiated as part of the election agreement, the joint election agreement. But there's an interesting distinction here. It used to be when it was prior to this new countywide election, it used to be that the elections administrator was running kind of our election in our district for us, but it was still kind of our election. And our election only occurred in our precincts. That isn't the case anymore. So the case is our election is now in every polling place in Bexar County at every day where that polling place is open. So we can't insist on things the way that we used to, because we have all that list of other entities that have to agree with respect to that, or because they all have to be consistent. That's why we're going to have to defer to the election administrator in ways that we didn't have to, because this fundamentally different. This is a countywide election, basically, for everybody in that has an item on the November ballot, and those conditions have to be the same in each polling place, so that for every entity that has an item on the ballot. So we've ceded, by doing this county system, we've ceded some control to the county election administrator, and that's what the legislature is suggesting that we do. Ultimately, it's got a little bit of a learning curve, but ultimately, especially now, because people can go vote pretty much anywhere, then that it's going to be a better deal in terms of this COVID thing, because people can look for the short line and go vote. So it's going to be good, but there's a little bit of a learning curve in terms of what's out there. So we have to be a little more deferential to the group, because the county's running not just the county election, they're running it for everybody. So we're all kind of conceding some, that's what a joint election order is. So we're conceding some of the authority to the group.
Thank you, Ms. O'Hanlon. I just have two more questions, and then I'll recognize Ms. Alderete. So do we as a school district submit a wish list, I guess you could say, to the county elections to say we would like to have these polling sites? Do we submit those? Okay.
Yes.
So then, okay, so how do who submits those and under what authority?
Well, under your, again, normally for any joint election, the governing body chooses an election officer. That there's one person that we deal with. That to your point, Mr. Rodriguez, there are 3 steps to this. The joint agreement can get signed now, saying we are holding an election. The second point is you order your election, and by ordering it, it's a relatively simple order that says November 3rd. These are the seats that are up. And that we're going to do exactly what you had said, contract with Bexar County Elections. And so that's the order calling the election. Then after that, then you'll get a contract from us once we know everyone that's in there. The contract has the exhibit A and B attached to it, because at that point we have some flexibility, as to Mr. O'Hanlon's point, to say which sites we're going to put in there. So like right now, we're not going to assign San Admin Building. That's where we've been holding early voting. And we hold that until we see if you in fact will have your seats. Will they actually be an election? Or are you able to cancel them because you only had one candidate each? So once all of that happens for all of these 35 or 40 entities, then we pull it all together and we send it out for a general agreement, and then we move forward. So it's a 3-part joint memorandum of understanding saying, yes, we're going to call an election. Then in a separate order, you're going to have your election order called. And that's a pretty standard legal document that says November 3rd's coming and these are the seats that are up. Here's you have to say the filing period, which you're in now, ends on August 17th. And then you're going to contract with Bexar County Elections Administrator.
Got it. Thank you for that, Ms. Jackie. That brought some clarity to me. So then my last question is, where are the historical attachment A's? This isn't, we've had elections before, and I was asking Dr. Puig to provide some historical data to the board for when they consider this item. So for some reason, we've been unable to track that down. The previous election orders from previous elections that have that attachment A that board members can see.
Okay, well, we will see. I did send the Express News copies from the 16th and 18 election, but that listed every poll site in the county that we were using that day. So I can see if I can dig a little bit deeper. And I'm pretty sure that the reason, as you say, you're looking for historical data. Again, in the election world, for an election that's held on a governor's race, since you all are on the even governor and then presidential, if an election's held on the governor's side, any and all records must be retained for 22 months, and then they can be destroyed. For a presidential election, they must be held for 48 months. So they're coming up on that. But the legal requirement, because again, most of the entities build an election box, and then they keep a copy of their order, and they keep the results, and they keep the canvas that we send and all that good stuff. And then after 22 months, well, they probably need more space to store more items if they're anything like all of us.
Right. Yeah. No, the last election we had was in 2018. So I think I heard you say that the election order comes back to whoever our election officer is. So that should probably be the first reference point where we try to get this historical data. But I would appreciate your efforts. Again, just trying to be thorough. When Dr. Puig and I set the agenda, I take it seriously that we bring every single piece of information for the board to make a sound decision. And a lot of times it's, okay, well, what did we do last year? Well, what did we do 2 years ago? And it kind of helps them in that process. So whatever you can do to obtain that information, we'd appreciate it. And I think Dr. Puig will, whoever our election officer is or was at that time, should also have that. I think we're still within the 22-month period. But Ms. Alderete, you had a question. Thank you very much, Ms. Jackie. You answered every one of my questions. Thank you so much. Ms. Alderete?
Yeah, Kevin, you stated this was going to be like different, right? This election. You're absolutely correct. Because they can vote anywhere. That's amazing. We have people who go to work and they're way on the other side of town trying to rush to get back to their area to vote. So that's amazing. Just in my opinion, board members, President Rodriguez, why change something that's not broken, right? Of course, the language is going to be very important, like Jackie said, as to subject to change. So I think something like us keeping things the way they are, because that's what works in this area. People know where they got to go, and it's not till November. You can give it that opportunity, and if we get to that point, I'm sure the elections department is going to be keen on making sure that people understand that things have changed. And look, it's not going to be here because of X, Y, and Z. But I think until we get to that point, why change something that isn't broken? So I thank you, Ms. Jackie. It's good to have been doing this for 16 years in this district, and I haven't seen you online ever. So it's amazing to have you. I've met you a couple times in the office, but thank you for coming and clarifying things. I did get a phone call asking me if I wanted to change my polling site. That's just something I really don't want to do because my area is used to that polling site. I have a lot of seniors, and seniors don't like change.
Right.
So it's important to me to make sure that the voters are happy first and foremost, because that's how you get them to come out, right? When they're happy, and that's what we want. So thank you for all of the information, and I look forward to the results in November. I'm excited.
Thank you, Ms. Alderete. And again, thank you, Ms. Jackie, for availing yourself. And, I wish you all the luck come November. Try to get as much sleep as you can between now and
we're in this together.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Mrs. Prado has a question. Mrs. Prado.
I think Ms. Flores had Mr. Flores had a question.
Ms. Prado was first. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Ms. Prado?
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Jackie, welcome to session. It's always good to see you again. Jackie, in this last runoff election, there really was no voting sites in South San in our district. And so, as you know, that we usually have, of course, the one in Johnson Library, where it's Miss Estrada's district that she was referring to. And because of the old South San, we usually have two on this side of the district. So I agree. It's going to be nice that people will be able to go and vote wherever they want, except that we have a poor economically disadvantaged district, and a lot of our people don't have that opportunity to go shop at the mall or go to the store. They're at home and they'll walk to the polling site if it's available. So I think it's important that this election, that we have sites that are accessible to the community here at South San, and that the 3 sites we usually get, although they won't be schools, because I don't foresee us using schools. Hopefully our schools will be running and the kids will be back, but that we have used in the past Ramirez Recreation Center, the community center, that remember we've used that. And although on this side of the district, we're not going to be using Carrillo, which we've used, there are 2 other locations there that are available, which is the South San Community Center on Quintana.
Yes.
That's an option. And then there's a new Salvation Army on Southwest Military that is never used. I don't ever see any cars there, but it's open, it's accessible, lots of parking. Those are also good possibilities.
Thank you. Thank you. And if any of you have time on your hands, if you could please reach out to South Park Mall, because they denied us the use of their facility. And that's the first time. And that was always the anchor for South San. And on this July 14th election, they denied use of the facility.
Jackie, if I may, I suspect if the governor continues and the numbers keep going up and these stores are not opening up, I don't foresee them all opening because of the hours. You weren't able to have voting there. I think they were closing them all early.
Yes.
So you had that one bowling site on Military underneath 35, which was a good location back then. But if these cases keep going up, I don't see them all opening up the hours that you're going to need them. I mean, it'd be nice. I hope so, because that's what the people are used to. But I'm concerned with the rise in the COVID numbers.
Yes, ma'am. So are we, and we'll work with you. Promise.
Thank you.
Mr. Flores. Thank you, Ms. Prado. Mr. Flores.
Yes, sir. I just want to say thank you for the presentation, Ms. Jackie. And just like Ms. Alderete said, thank you for gracing us with your presence online. My question is, I have a couple of things, but one, Dr. Puig, who is our elections point person right now?
So Ms. Chris has been our elections point person, and we're going to work with Ms. Chris Moreno, and we're going to work with Mr. Baum to make sure that Ms. Moreno is still interested in doing that. But also just at this time, as we hit the reset button in the organization and evaluate, we just need to look at all of our options internally before we put that forth to you all.
Okay. And I also want to say something, and that is that when I ran the last time, all the polling sites worked in my favor, so that's why I'm here. And so I'm actually for whatever worked for me prior, I want to keep. And so to keep those locations, so I may be a bit selfish in saying that, right? Because folks are a creature of habit, and so they're going to go to the same places, and so I know that the Bexar County's elections office will use the best judgment on the polling sites and where the business needs to be conducted. Like Mr. Rodriguez said, I don't envy your job. You're going to have it kind of rough from here on out. So prayers your way. But I just wanted to chime in and say that I support the same locations that have been, and hopefully they pan out. And so, anyways, good luck. And thank you for answering our questions tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for the prayers.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Moving on to the next item is the discussion and possible action. Dr. Puig, did you have something?
I had a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. And actually, just a comment. Mrs. Jackie, thank you for your professionalism tonight and just being so available and responsive and flexible with us. It just means a lot to our organization. And moving forward, let's continue to navigate this closely together. Thank you for always being available when I call.
Absolutely.
And it just means everything. I just want to convey that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Same here.
Thank you, Dr. Puig. Ms. Prado, did you have another question?
Not from Ms. Cal-Allen. Jackie, thank you so much. But I do have a question for Dr. Puig at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Puig, I think if you recall, the election advisory from the Secretary of State office, and I'm sure you've reviewed it, because I did notice that on the website, Mr. Baum did post the notice for the place on the ballot.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, thank God we did that. We were
Yes.
really behind on doing that. But I think there may be some other things that we need to make sure that we're compliant with that are in that. It gives you details, the calendar of everything that has to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
One or two things that we've not done yet. So I'm not going to take up more than my 3 minutes, but maybe Mr. O'Hanlon can get together with Mr. Baum or Christina, whoever needs to. And if they have questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
We'll review the procedures in the morning.
Thank you, Ms. Lowe. Thank you, Mr. O'Hanlon. Thank you, Dr. Puig. Any final thoughts on this item? Hearing none, we'll move on to discussion and possible action. Item number 1, discussion and possible action to approve the district insurance consultant contract. Dr. Puig.
Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. Last month, you all approved the selection of SWBC as our health insurance consultant. Tonight, we are bringing forth our recommendation to approve the contract. And please know that it's been scrubbed carefully by Mr. O'Hanlon. And then, of course, I want to compliment Jeff Baum and his work on this contract and his careful vetting of the consultant, and including the committee that was involved in the front end of this. So excited to move forward with this process. We have a tight timeline, but I think we've got a great partner for the health insurance component moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Puig. So is that your recommendation, Dr. Puig, is to approve
Yes.
the presented? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry for not being more clear. Yes, sir. We are recommending the approval of the insurance consulting contract as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Puig. So I'll ask for a first and a second, and then we'll open it for discussion. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to accept the SWBC life insurance contract as presented in the board packet.
I have a motion by Mr. Asco. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that Ms. Alderete? Second by Ms. Alderete. Is there any discussion at this time? Hearing none, Michelle, if we can have a roll call.
Ms. Alderete,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Connie Prado,
Yes.
Mr. Homer Flores,
Yes.
Mr. Kevin Rasco,
Yes.
Ms. Veronica Barba.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. The next item on the agenda is discussion of possible action to approve the purchases of invoices greater than $50,000. Dr. Puig.
Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. Tonight, we don't have any individual items that meet that threshold. This was merely a placeholder as we work closely with Mr. Baum in navigating some of our purchases moving forward. We wanted this in here in the event that we did. However, we did have purchases between $25,000 and $49,999. And we promised to share that report every month, and we did submit that to you today, and I hope you received it in good order. So at this time, there is no recommendation for item 2.
Thank you for that, Dr. Puig. Board members, you should have received that item from Dr. Puig today via email. I believe I see Ms. Prado have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you, Dr. Prince, for the update. I have it here with me. I was looking for something for over 50,000 and there wasn't, so I figured it was just a report from you. But I do have a question on the 50,000. As you know, the budget committee met with the HVAC people, and there should be some purchases of over 50,000 for HVAC, and I've not seen anything come to the board for approval. So can we get a report from you on what's the status of all of the HVAC issues we had presented to the budget committee, and have they been taken care of yet? Because school is coming and summer is here.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. We'll dive into that tomorrow morning and find out the status. I know we had some challenges right at that time when we just had to close up once again, but let me get that buttoned up in the morning and circle back to you then.
Thank you, Dr. Puig.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that, Dr. Puig, Ms. Prado. And the superintendent, Dr. Puig, saying there are no invoices for us to consider. Moving on to item number 3, consideration and possible approval of TA waiver requesting an extension to start the 2020-21 school year transition beyond the 4-week limit. Dr. Puig.
Thank you, Chairman Rodriguez and trustees. As we talked about at the opening of our meeting this evening, the trustees have spoken loud and clear. Our community, our staff, and our teachers have spoken loud and clear. And we have sent a collective message that safety is everything, and that we are desiring local control to make the safe decisions, the wise decisions, the compassionate decisions for our children and teachers and staff moving forward. That being said, the commissioner has allowed us an additional option of 4 weeks for a total of 8 weeks with the board approval, again, of this waiver that is in front of you for consideration. That being said, the important aspect of this is to ensure that we provide 100% connectivity. And we saw from the data earlier, and we heard from the report from Mrs. Edbion and Mr. Lalaman that we are prepared to do that indeed, having 1 month out before we start. And so we're confident that we can move forward with this waiver if you so consider. It is our recommendation, strong recommendation, that you all approve this waiver tonight so that we can move forward with the process of solidifying our virtual environment moving forward and ensure the safety of our children and staff. So thank you for your consideration. But that is our recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Puig. Board members, hearing the superintendent's recommendation, the chair will entertain a motion and a second, and then we will open it up for discussion. At this time,
Mr. Rodriguez, I'd like to make a motion.
Ms. Prado, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the superintendent to accept the waiver that is afforded to our district to keep the safety of our children, our teachers, and our staff.
I have a motion by Ms. Prado. Do I have a second? I will second that. Michelle, any discussion on this item? I'll just say very quickly, Dr. Puig, thank you for the recommendation on this item. I think, just like you've said, the board is of the position that safety is paramount, and we're in agreement that we should have local control, local decision-making authority in collaboration with our superintendent and his recommendations on how we should proceed after the initial 4 weeks. So thank you for working diligently, Dr. Puig, to get this waiver on the agenda for the board's consideration this evening. So at this time, Michelle, we can have a roll call.
Yes, sir. Ms. Stacy Alderete?
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Connie Prado?
Yes.
Mr. Homer Flores?
Yes.
Mr. Kevin Rasco?
Yes.
Ms. Veronica Barba?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. At this time, the next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Ms. Alderete. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Barba. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:44 p.m. Thank you, board members. Thank you, community members. And thank you to those educators who were online We were watching your comments come in. We appreciate you.
Yes.
And we are here to protect you and
Yes.
our children. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
guys.
Good night, guys.
Night.